Okay, let's see if it works. For the first time today, I'll be both on Twitch and YouTube, and we'll see what happens. I realize that I myself am so much more on YouTube than Twitch that maybe it makes sense to see how it looks like on YouTube. I don't know if this makes things much more difficult or not. I don't think so. So for today, I saw something that from the title seems like potentially perfect content found for me and my sister, for example. By the way, is my sister here? Usually. I'm not on the right. So this is sorry. So this is Love Island, Poland, what I'd like to watch. And I mentioned at some point, and it's something that I want to raise awareness around, is that Polish culture went through some horrific, horrible transformation last couple decades, and it's basically now transformed into translated to Polish language, mostly copy-pasted US Slav culture, but of course with our own vibe to it. So from the title, it looks like this may be really amazing. From what I understand, this guy isn't Polish. We'll see. Where is he from? I didn't watch it at all. I just wanted to save this for some nice evening. And I hope I'll be able to explain some things from Polish context. Or maybe there'll be nothing to explain. I have no idea, but I want to give it a chance, at least. Okay, let's see if reach. Okay. This laptop is going through difficult moments each time I'm streaming, so forgive me things being a bit slow. Should be almost. Okay, if my sister is here, you can confirm you see my chat on Twitch. So let's see how it goes.
I've watched so many seasons of Love is Blind. Every US one, international ones, multiple seasons of the same international one, but Love is Blind Poland is a unique one. Because watching this season honestly felt like a bunch of producers got together and said, hey, why don't we brainstorm some of the most dramatic scenarios we possibly can and throw them all into one season? lying, drama, cheating, two besties in a love
Like,
square
like a
with
tiny
two
bit
other
louder,
besties, even wedding day scandals, and I'm talking revelations that come out the day that they are getting married that turn a likely I do into an oh hell no. I mean, once I was done, I looked back at this season like...
This place has everything. Vermin, bullet holes, a hornet's nest.
This is
and
very
maybe
well
there's
summed
even
up,
a little
Poland, I
love
think.
story too. So let's begin this journey, and I for one was very interested in this season because my grandma was Polish. She was born
Okay.
there until she had to flee from the war. So I felt connected, and I wanted to see what the pods had to offer, which this
I'm wondering how Polish is he? I mean, how understandable or not the context will be for him, but
time was this.
I myself watched maybe like one episode of Love Island, American Love Island, years ago. But I'm familiar with the concept, but I never watched the Polish version because I'm cringing so hard at those Polish versions of like American shows. So I'm already seeing this setup there, that this is how it's. I think it may be maybe phenomenal production.
What would you want this relationship to look like?
Let me put it this way. Me watching a game, you on the other side of the planet.
What? What do you like?
I'm f***ing awesome.
I'm confused already. It's dubbed? There is a English dubbing. I was sure, if anything, he added subtitles and I'll hear Polish. Damn it, this is already making things a bit different than I assumed, because there are so many like specific nuances to Polish language that I don't know to what degree I can trust this translation. I'll try to lip read them as much as possible and just see how it goes.
What? What do you like?
I'm f***ing awesome. Women wolf whistle at me on the street.
It's gonna be like that, huh?
Now this is Damian, who just really comes off like a gem, and it's clear that a lot of the women here are not too pleased with him after their first dates.
I didn't like Damien.
I didn't like Damian
He was
either.
kind of vulgar. He said, I wouldn't want you to get stretched out if you had kids too soon. And I was like, what?
However, there
Okay, this sounds fairly Polish. This sounds very believable. The stretched out comment.
is one woman who hears all this and thinks, you know, I kind of like Damian's interesting sense of humor, and that woman is Marta. So when she hears stuff like,
I'd like to find a child-making factory.
Oh, well, I'd like to have between 2 and 4.
Wow.
I was going, you sure? This guy? This guy?
Look at the screen.
That's mine. I'm gonna stick with that.
And that's what you're going to settle for.
Now, alright, there are a couple of other guys in the mix for Marta, and she gets very conflicted with them. There's Camille here, who the whole time seems to be her number 3, but then there's also MP, an American man who says he can't.
MP. Oh, I was also surprised because Polish people don't do this letters as names, so American. I'm wondering if he's speaking Polish on the show or if he's being subtitled.
Came to Poland to get his master's degree without going into crippling debt. And honestly, as we were going through, I kinda thought that Marta was going to pick MP. But as pressure starts to mount with 3 guys all focused on her, Marta starts to feel a bit guilty, and so she first sheds off Camille. But then she learns that Damian has a dog named Freddy, and Marta's mom was a big Queen fan. This
What? And this was a substantial factor?
seems like the first, maybe kind of a sign for her. Especially considering her mom passed away, so maybe this is the universe saying pick Damian. And as
What?
things start to progress, eventually she tells MP that she's sorry, but her heart is elsewhere.
I want to thank you so much for your beautiful heart and I just have to go where I feel safer.
And again, we're sure this
Po
is
prostu muszę pójść tam, gdzie czuję się bezpieczna. Okay, this is possible to lip read and it's fairly translated, I think. But I'm pretty sure she's like, this is a acting, much more acting part than crying over like random TV show dude.
Damian, we're sure? Okay, just want to be certain. So then in comes Damian, and the two start to dive into deeper topics, and not just him joking all the time. Like, she discusses how being body shamed as a dancer turned to her having an eating disorder, while Damian opens up about his brother's suicide. And now Marta feels as though there's more to him than just the crude comments, leading to these two getting engaged. But as things lead up to the reveal, Marta starts worrying about how he might react to seeing her. However, once it goes down,
Oh, I didn't know this part. I didn't know because I didn't watch this show at all in my life. I wasn't aware they can't see each other first. I didn't remember this from watching this very long ago. So they did this. Oh my god! So he was such an asshole. And they were still happy to pick him, not knowing how it looks like. Why are Polish women like this? Why do they all love disgusting assholes? Hello, Magda. Americans don't use subtitles, but Germans are new to subtitles and like dubbing to German. But I was really sure that fairly young Americans are capable of dealing with subtitles and that is like less cringe than dubbing. But okay. Probably it's a huge job to specifically do subtitles for every episode. Maybe I don't want to use AI for shit like that, but maybe I'll do it one day because the real goal would be to hear Polish and hear all those kind of nuances. For some reason, still even with AI and all this, Polish language, especially colloquial Polish language, is extremely often completely mistranslated online by those automatic translators. So I'm wondering to what degree this guy was able to do it. Well, his brother's suicide, yeah. This is, the first date, but they have to go hard because, as I understand, the concept is that they are not getting engaged and soon decide if they want to get married. I'm not sure if I'm understanding correctly, but this is what this is what I gathered so far.
Damian seems, well, very interested, and I mean very, very interested.
My darling.
So much cringe already. Oh yeah.
I have an erection.
What?
I think maybe I'll sit for a while. Just give me a minute. Hail Mary, full of grace. The Lord is with you.
Alright, so there we have it. 1 engagement down, 4 more to go before we head into the honeymoon phase of the show. And from here, things are only going to be ramping up. For example, let me introduce you to Yulia. Yulia has dreamt of her wedding day ever since she was 6 and has a close relationship with her grandfather because her dad split from her life after saying he didn't think she was his kid because she didn't quite look like him. Yeah. However, Yulia marches to the beat of her own drum and, well, that drum can turn on a dime.
Wow, I got chills.
Really?
Yulia, you must be very emotional, right?
And why do you say that?
I've come to realize that I really want to have some space for myself in a relationship, which I didn't have before when I got burned out. I couldn't give as much as I wanted to.
It was nice meeting you. Have a nice day.
It was nice.
Oh, I like it. I like her attitude. This is rare. I was sure that like this previous one, she'll go for like, I'm an asshole, so I'm a real man. How many Polish dudes do this? And she was perfect. I love her already.
Bye.
But then Yulia meets Camille, a different Camille, who is
Uno?
also called Uno. And at first,
Starszy konsultant klienta. Senior client advisor. Whoever that is. Yeah, the process is very bizarre. Do you know how many men they can like go. Sorry, forgive me, hitting this mic. How many men they can interview or something and reject before they will be rejected or something.
Seems like their only issue might be that she's religious and he's not, but then they both clarify things and say that as long as it's not a big deal for the other person, they don't really care. So this seems to be going well. That is, until Uno gets her a gift. Some chocolates that make Yulia feel so special until he says,
There may be more chocolates going around in your group. I mean, one other person will be getting chocolates as well.
What?
Oh, that's,
But not the same ones.
What?
yeah, considering what
I'm not sure if I get this. What something's wrong with those chocolates? Was this some disgusting joke? I unpolished myself too much to comprehend because she looks so shocked. What is happening?
But not the same ones.
Yeah, considering what happened when that one guy called her emotional, this one is headed for disaster.
Did I disappoint you?
yeah.
You're still at the top for me. You're not falling off the podium.
But you probably are.
Oh,
So now, Yulia rushes back to the common room and is in absolute tears, saying stuff like,
You're already assuming the worst. He didn't give the other girl a ring, just
Yeah, but
Chocolates,
and
exactly.
it hasn't
This
even happened yet.
woman-
no, there's no excuse for this behavior.
And by the way, this happened episode 1. And okay, I get it, it's not fun, you want to be the only person
honestly, I'm positively surprised. I was sure it will be like never-ending parade of tragic pick-me girls, and the second one already is like a very reasonable and very quickly telling them like, no, really, I won't take your bullshit, and that's really nice. That's really nice. That's pretty good. So how many men they can interview? Because this was second or third. I think this was the third one already. Can she like forever click next one, swipe left, let's say?
pursued by your partner, you want to be someone's first choice, but did no one tell her what show she's on? Hello? So Uno comes back to the pods to beg for
I wanted to know pre-wash so much that I really didn't even familiarize myself with how many they can even say no to. I see. From what I am seeing, no one knows anywhere else.
forgiveness and tells her that she is his number one choice. And Yulia says that she'll just have to trust him, but also she's been in near tears this whole time, even when they can
Folded under zero pressure. I was already so proud of her. Oh, I'm sorry.
continue to date and he eventually does propose, she's also back in tears, and I'm not talking about the happy ones.
What if he walks out and turns
He
around?
won't turn around. Why are you assuming the worst, huh?
I think so too.
Yeah.
Julia, why would he?
I don't know why I'm crying.
Now, when the reveal does happen, Uno doesn't turn around. He's into Yulia, but as far as Yulia is concerned, his reaction to her isn't what she had hoped it would be.
Are you satisfied?
Very much.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah?
It's nice.
Okay, what is he supposed to like jump? Physically like start clapping with joy? I think he looks as if he was happy with the reveal, or am I crazy?
To be surprised. You look great. Fiance.
Did I misjudge her? Will she be a horrible bitch?
Yeah, she doesn't even look back at him, saying she thought he'd be more wowed and that seeing his fiancée would elicit a more exciting reaction from Uno.
She really seemed reasonable to me first. It is wedding day. I thought it's engagement. Okay, so it's engagement, wedding today, And then is the honeymoon. And during the honeymoon is actually getting to know each other, right? Or crazy. At least a more exciting reaction. Like what? This would be very weird if dude saw me and not after even a conversation, but after seeing me start like jumping around. I don't know. I don't want someone like so obsessed about how people look like. That's weird.
Uno. And so now she's freaking out, thinking he's not attracted to her. Meanwhile, it cuts to Uno going,
Yulia looks like $1 million.
But okay, up next, we can actually bang out two couples all in one. As early on in the show, there are some people who become really close friends with their fellow pod daters in the common room, like Daria here, who becomes friends with Yulita. Now, Yulita has an 18-year-old son, and she's 37, so yeah, she had him at 19, with a man who, by the way, shortly afterwards took his own life. And remember this guy, Jacek? Well, Yulita shares all this with him, and he says having a kid isn't a deal breaker. So that's off to a good start for her. And then she meets a guy named Philippe, who also doesn't seem to care. He goes,
hot mummy.
So with a couple of really nice dates under her belt, Yulita comes back to the common room to dish to her friend on how great those dates were. Meanwhile, Daria shares how great her dates went with her top two guys, and I think you might know where I'm going with this, as Daria just happens to have had two great dates with Jacek and Philippe, who, on the other side of things, also happen to have met and become BFFs as well. Now, Yulita and Daria start to figure...
What were those cups? Yes, Jacek, Yulita, Yulia with why it's cute, it's sweet. Can you see those cups? What is happening here? Is it like it looks like stolen from a church. Looks like a cup that priest during mass drinks Christ's blood from. Weird.
Happen to have met and become BFFs as well. Now, Yulita and Daria start to figure this all out when Daria comes in for her next date with Philippe, and Philippe goes,
Hello. Well, I have very fond memories of that voice.
Aww.
Julita.
Oh, get out.
No?
And okay, this is the first moment where I
He's a bit
went,
scary.
oh, this is too much to not be scripted. Because at the same time, Jacek is waiting for his next date with Yulita, and when she walks in...
Hey.
Hello. Hi, Daria.
They both got their dates wrong, and now Yulita is going, Daria, huh? Funny you should say that.
She is my bestie here.
It's cool to hear that.
And who's
It's
your
French?
bestie?
No, I think it's Philippe, but he can't pronounce it other way than Philippe. That's my guess.
Philippe.
Philippe, you see.
Now eventually things do work out, as Jacek starts to feel like he's leaning more toward Yulita, and Philippe feels like he's leaning toward Daria. And although the women both seem to have been more 50-50 than the guys were, ultimately Jacek proposes to Yulita, and Philippe proposes to Daria, and
These are
any
all
further
adults.
messiness...
These are very adults. It's such a cringe thing to like, even to do it as a game privately, but someone films you and shows you to the whole country, and then some Polish ancestry dude in the US takes it, translates it, and shows this to everyone everywhere. I would be like, I don't know, are they employable still? Or not really? I'm not sure. Sounds tough. Employable. They're your age? You are very adult. I'm very sorry I have to break this to you, but you're pretty adult, my baby sister.
This is avoided. Although Philippe meeting Daria ends up being not quite as romantic as one might hope.
Because he's scary.
You didn't leave much to the imagination.
Excuse me?
What?
There's
nothing.
Okay, this side is pretty short, but come on, it's... Oh my god, I just noticed her arms. Can you see her arms? come on, she looks like a gym 5 days per week. And hard to judge legs from this perspective, but she probably is not skipping a leg day also. So. But it sounds also like Polish dude. Just hide in the kitchen, wear a potato bag, don't reveal your tie. Probably also they dressed her on this show, right? I'm guessing.
There's almost nothing left here.
Philippe.
So this now leads us to our final couple, and here it all revolves around a man named Krzysztof, who connects with a woman named Malika and also a woman named Kinga. And while Krzysztof definitely likes Malika, it becomes clear that he's just thinking more and more about Kinga. Something about her is just telling him that she's his number one. However, at this point, we also learn that Krzysztof's last relationship ended because of emotional cheating on her part, and this whole bit of information is important because Krzysztof starts to hear this from the other guys in the common room.
There'll be a big war over her.
For Kinga, huge.
Yeah, they'll be fighting for Kinga till the very end.
Each of us is dragging his jaw on the ground after a date with her.
Oh, Kinga.
Everyone's captivated, huh?
She has 6.
Kinga, right? Mm-hmm.
So now he's going, oh shit, am I even Kinga's number one? What's going on here? And he starts to get...
How can they remember if at the same time you're considering so many people and you only hear their voices and you can, you also know names so you can kind of pair them, but how can you remember who did you talk to about what thing? What was whose answer? I would be so confused. I would have to like Excel or like spreadsheet with like subjects because it's just a voice, and in a group of how many dudes are there? 5, 7 or something. Some will have similar voice. To me it feels like quite commonly people get confused there unless they're doing like a whole homework preparation before anything. They don't do this homework because they just said that both on one date were confused who they'll be talking to, so crazy.
Way in his head, getting triggered over the idea that Kinga might be doing what his ex did, telling himself, no, Kinga's not right for him, he needs someone who's more introverted, someone...
Kinga is doing something? Oh my god, he's so obsessed that even on this stage, the fact she's talking to other men is upsetting him, but this is literally what this show is about now. She needs to, like everyone else, check out her options. So he's upset that she didn't immediately, after their one date, reject everyone else. I think this is a red flag, my humble opinion. Krzysztof, 36 years old, Cieśla. Cieśla, Magda, help me. Oh my god, I know this word. Help me. Person building furniture. Oh my god, I'm very ashamed of myself. Not the Jesus. I have this word somewhere in me, but not on hand. He's building furniture.
Less likely to be the life of the party, and as he's now thinking, someone more like Malika, not knowing that this whole time, he's actually Kinga's clear number one, as she's saying stuff like,
Really, my heart beats for him.
But nope, as he enters their next date, he's written a letter that's waiting for her, a letter that, well, nothing gets communicated, but she ends up in tears and storms out heartbroken. And this whole emotional cheating thing with him, I just need y'all to...
But this is some extremely potentially valuable lesson for men. That if you're too obsessed, you'll just destroy your own chances that you actually had before anything happens. I'm in a way happy he destroyed his chances because he definitely needs therapy and this may be a nice girl that shouldn't be subjected to this. But as a life lesson, I'm for the second time positively impressed by how things are presented here. Carpenter. God, thank you, Carpenter. I had it on the tip of my tongue. Is it even a phrase in English? I think so. I hope so. I don't know. Okay.
Really note this down for now, because it's going to be very interesting to know what he eventually does with this context in mind. Anyway, Malika sees Kinga all heartbroken and she's worried about what kind of guy Kristoff might be, but she ultimately decides to accept his proposal, and we now have our 5 couples headed to Greece for the honeymoons. And here's where things lie as we get into everyone seeing each other
Those
for the
weird
first
cups.
time. Damian and Marta are pretty good. I mean, it's not long before he's going.
So this like part of the show is like officially announcing, okay, so now all of them will fuck like one evening, and there's like reviewing this next morning. I don't consider myself a prude person, but this is so like it gives me such a weird ick, and you do all this under your name on TV. Oh my god! Oh my god! It can be furniture, it doesn't have to be. What else can it be, potentially, if not furniture? Okay, so let's see how the intercourses went. I don't even know.
I don't know how to say it in a polite way. That we banged.
But Marta is getting a little bit annoyed at
thank
how
you for
often
answering my
Damian
question.
jokes around, because she needs to know that there's a serious side to him and it's not always...
Can I get up? I gotta take a leak, okay?
We're a bit classier.
In the end, we're all animals.
Kristoff is feeling like Malika doesn't feel as strongly about him as he does about her, saying that she's putting up walls and not wanting to communicate. Plus, she is very particular about packing and the way things are organized, which does not mesh
I
well
can
with
relate
him. As
a
for
bit.
Yulia, she's still wildly insecure. I mean...
They should pair her with the insecure guy. If they want to have like prime shit content, they should pair her with this Krzysztof that from Insecurity wrote weirdo letter to Kinga, and they will create the perfect drama or disaster or perfect couple. I don't know. It just has to be from wood. Okay. Carpentry includes such specialties as barrel maker, cabinet maker, framer. Oh yes, framers build like frames for houses, right? Like roofs. Okay, and ship carpenter. Okay, this makes sense. Thank you for helping me. I was embarrassed for not remembering this word.
I don't know. I'm just worried about if I'm cool enough, if he really wants to talk to me and get to know me.
And then there's the BFFs engaged to the other BFFs, where Daria is saying Philippe is not really her type, and then is kind of wowed when Jacek comes in. Meanwhile, Yelita starts to distance herself from Daria after feeling like Daria is suddenly no longer engaging with her now that they've arrived and all seen each other. Oh, and then there's this thing that happens. They don't say what it is or give us really any sort of context as to what went down, but it happened off camera with Yelita and Jacek, and this is what she has to say about it.
Don't you want to talk?
What am I supposed to say to you now? I never expected to hear those f***ing words. Your words were the worst nightmare and the worst culmination to it all.
Oh my god.
And then it's dropped. They move on, we don't get to know anything more, and...
What? Oh my god. He had to say something so horrible that they really like had to remove it because it was not possible to televise or would make him unemployable forever actually. But it's they love like swearing and all this stuff. It had to be something like deeply disturbing, I think. And he seems to be capable of that or not. Might be fun doing montage of this. You mean as a like on Polish TV side or this dubbing? Should we Should we create content as dubbing cringe Polish shows? Do you think it's a good idea? I'm always saying that it's a shame that Polish language is so difficult because more people worldwide should be aware how insane this country is. There's this bizarre pro-Poland like trend and pro-Polish obsession, and for some reason people are not aware that this is deeply insane country, really. Maybe said the N-word. Honestly, something like probably you dream about N-word dick or something is like one of the favorite things Polish men say to women they don't like or want to offend. So yeah, I think this would be exploited if it was N-word. I think this was something just like, that wasn't even fun, like cringe and horrible and something like that. I don't know. It's not even suggested. What?
And things get pushed into all the couples living together in Poland, where now they get to see how they interact in the real world and what each other's families are like. Where, Uno here, he's really going to get to know Yulia's dynamic with her mother, who is very invested in Yulia and her life. For example, on Yulia's birthday, he gifts Yulia flowers and also lingerie, which is for her, right? It's for her. And then Yulia calls her mom and goes,
I'll show you something else. Yes? I can show my mom this. You see?
Is that a gift for you or for him?
And then Uno gets to meet the whole
So,
family in person. And boy, mom sees this man walk in and right away she is not feeling his vibe.
I play volleyball, I have my own
Do you
team.
know what my daughter's dreams are?
Her dreams?
Alright, I almost expected a cartoonish gulp to come out of him at this point.
He just wanted to say something about himself, right? It doesn't sound like some unreasonable bragging, like
I know that
I
Yulia
do
wants to
sports.
open her own business, so when it comes to work, she
This is a common wish to have your own business in Poland because Polish people think like Northern Americans about having a company, that it automatically makes you a person deserving money and respect just by the act of starting a business. But the sad reality is that Polish companies' average lifespan is, last time I checked, was I think 4 years, 3.5 or something like this. So it's like a suicidal dream people have. And Magda, I just realized our dad is, how to say this, improving statistics, but he's also a good example that you can have a company for many years and barely survive with it. So
What else?
So mom eventually goes, alright, Camille, Uno, what are your flaws? And he's just mumbling around like it's a job interview where you don't want to explain your actual faults, you just want to make a good impression, but mom is not buying it. And this isn't one of those moments where a loved one is hard on the person dating their child but end up liking them. No, the moment he's out of earshot, mom is going, I don't trust him.
I don't trust him. He's a man who doesn't see any flaws in himself.
It's nice that you can
is it
have
what he said?
you know, an outside perspective.
You can always see more from the outside.
Then there's Jacek and Julita and Daria and Philippe, who are all
He seems to be nice guy. They seem to be very harsh. Okay, now I see this whole show is fake. Now I just noticed something. This is all scripted bullshit, and they don't even sleep in this apartment they're being filmed in for sure. And this also additionally shows this copying American culture trend, because they're sitting on a couch in the living room and this dude, his shoes on his feet. This is unthinkable in a Polish living room. This is what you do. You wear socks or house shoes or something. these are not house shoes, and no one does this in Poland, and it always disgusts me completely. And yeah. He won on the free market. Yes, slippers or bare feet or whatever, but never outdoor shoes. And like, really, I'll never comprehend this. I think this works in a culture where you use your car so consistently that your shoes literally touch the pavement like couple times per day, couple steps, and are just almost clean. Still would be disgusting to me. But even most obsessed Polish, car obsessed, I want to say, Polish people do walk sometimes. Just sometimes do walk, and it never happens that you wear those shoes at home. It always disgusts me so much. Okay, sorry.
Confronting the realities of their work life. Jacek comes home from work at a late hour, while Yelita has to wake up early to teach, and Philippe is a flight attendant, so there are stretches of time where Daria is just alone. And when Philippe does come back, he's exhausted, so they get snippy at each other when she wants to go out and do something together while he is tired. Oh, and then there's Yelita's son, Mikolaj, or Nikolaj, Miko. Am I saying it right?
Not even close. Nikolaj. Almost Nikolaj.
Nikolaj. I feel like I'm saying it.
No,
You know what? It doesn't matter.
He's 18, a grown adult, but the minute he finds out mom is engaged, well, he's acting weird and not liking any of this.
He didn't know
Yelita's
this will happen?
going, why?
I don't like the idea itself.
The idea of someone that's all too fast.
Not that
It
it's
ends
too
in a wedding.
fast, but in general.
Yeah, bro just says, nah mom, we're good, I don't need a new dad. And then there's Krzysztof, who already is feeling like he's losing his
The
connection to
carpenter.
Malika, and it only gets worse once they move in together and she is, well, not particularly gelling with the way he organizes things.
Check one first. It might be too small. No, it's okay. Leave it. Leave it. No, where are you putting it? You know how I do it?
I feel a bit called out because, especially with laundry, I have my small obsessions. I never make anyone do my laundry the way I want it to be done. Everyone can do it their way, but no one touches my laundry and does my laundry their way. Never, ever, ever. So I know it's annoying to people, but I can relate to her, and it's good she's not hiding this, to be honest, because when you force yourself to ignore this for a month and then you're actually married to this dude and then you start either suffering or forcing him to implement your rules, then it's, I think, not fair. If it's since day one, that's what you picked, dude. I think it's fair.
I'll put it here. No, we still need to turn off the lights.
Okay.
So Krzysztof just leaves. He straight up leaves, and he tells the camera he has regrets and feels like he would have done this experiment differently if he had a second chance. At which point, some time passes, and it cuts to him out meeting with Uno, where naturally Uno asks how things are going with Malika, and Krzysztof says this.
Well, not great. Okay. I met with Kinga.
Oh.
Excuse me?
The one he wrote a letter to. Where they informed behind the scenes that this was a big misunderstanding. I feel sorry for this laundry obsessed girl. She just laundry obsessed. She means well. She didn't know about any Kinga. You're on my side with the whole shoes in the apartment thing, but recently a guy on Instagram wrote under one post, I saw that Polish people don't wash their underwear every day and that we call people who do French what? Do French dogs? What do you mean? Probably there are some Polish people who don't wash their underwear every day. You mean change? You don't have like wash one pair every day, like change. But vast majority of known to me Polish people changes underwear every day. I think we have other problems. Not necessarily this. Since then, I don't really believe when someone says what all Poles do. He was very combative in the comments. Yeah, that's a Polish attitude. Oh my god, this stupid bot. Never mind. Okay, let's see what the Carpenter and Kinga will do. Will cook. No matter how many Polish people try to defend us and our underwear being clean, he insists that it's not a thing. It's not a thing. Changing an underwear, like, never heard of it in Poland. What can I say?
Did he just say with Kinga? So
Thank you,
apparently
Magda,
Krzysztof
for
contacted
deleting.
Kinga and the two met up where they didn't just talk.
I heard her voice.
They just hooked up?
Feelings came back. The infatuation. We flirted. And there was a kiss.
Now Krzysztof says they exchanged phone numbers and then he came back and he told Malika.
He's engaged, so it was technically cheating on TV officially. Oh no. Oh no.
Where he was expecting her to be like, that's it, this relationship is over, but then they ended up talking and Krzysztof says this was the first time they really communicated and
Oh
the
my
first
God,
time where Malika really expressed her feelings for him. Something that surprised him and sort of shook him back to reality.
So
They're
toxic.
now back
So
together
dumb.
and they're working on things. I mean, this could even be the real deal.
15 minutes later.
Be careful with the walls, please. Damn it.
Yeah, okay, but
Can you please not throw it like that?
Okay, I don't do all this stuff.
I'll go
Only
take out the
half.
trash.
I'll go home.
Then go.
Yeah, so they quickly break up again. With Krzysztof going, we can't even go out and get ice cream nowadays without you mentioning my cheating. And Malika goes, well, fine. If you can't deal with this, just say you want to break up with me, Krzysztof. Just say it.
So just say, Malika, I want to break up.
How old are they? He's 36 and
Say
she?
it.
How old is she?
Let's end this.
Oh, thank goodness. And well, Krzysztof just turns away and leaves us with this.
She's pure, flawless, and I'm a cheater.
Oh, save me. But
She's
oh,
pure.
we are not done here, as still to come
Okay,
is the pod
okay,
mixer where everyone from the pods, including
I'm actually, I think for the third time, positively surprised. I expected him to go, this fucking bitch, I never actually wanted to talk to her at all, blah blah blah. And this was very nice for the circumstances, I think. Krzysztof is so broken, yes, for 36. This therapy needs to start immediately. I hope they'll pay them well enough to invest in mental well-being, because 36 and this level of insecurity and kind of juvenile attitude, that's a bit sad, because he in some ways looks like a nice guy, and you know, Carpenter, good job. From liking Kinga and choosing Malika. What is this name, Malika? We know it can't be Malika because there is no Polish name Malika. No one has this name. He's mispronouncing some other name, but I can't find it. Which one? Yeah, cheating, bullying over laundry. Horrible, horrible. Which one you want? No. Well, blah, 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 blah. Oh, she looks Asian. She looks kind of a bit like half Asian. I don't know. Magda Mary B, you should sign up for next season of Love Island. What do you think? Will you have your spreadsheet of dudes?
a lot of the singles are all going to show up for a night out. And of course, MP shows up and he says he still has love for Marta, but she tells him she's happy with her choice and she would make it again. As for Uno and Yulia, well, these two are still these two.
No matter what I say, I just hear this Camille!
Camille, you know I can hear everything.
Well, it's good that you can hear it.
But the talk of the night is Krzysztof.
Yes, she looks very Asian. I think she looks like half Mongolian, maybe? I don't know. She's beautiful. She's absolutely beautiful. I can't, those weird, how do you call this? It's not like glass because it's not made out of glass. It's like this vasey things. For some reason I can smell them through the screen, that they smell like metal. I don't know why they bring out of this. That's weird. That's weird.
And Malika, where Kristoff says he's going to be keeping his distance from both women out of respect for Malika, of course. No other reason. And then Kinga arrives, who right away goes to Malika and says, hey, if you want to talk about anything, I'm here and ready to do so. Now at first, Malika says no, she just wants it behind her. But people keep bringing up the whole situation.
Her face. This is pretty memeable. I think this deserves a bit of memification. She does laundry, so not Polish? Oh yeah. She probably washes her pants. Can't be Polish, we established that already. For sure. Oh, I love her face here. She seems to be delighted.
Like Uno comes in for this just wonderful piece of advice.
Look, everyone knows that Kristoff screwed up, that he did wrong.
Everyone
but as they
knows?
say,
Okay.
It takes two to tango. You know, he's not the only one to blame.
Meanwhile, Kinga starts sharing her side of the story to the others, saying Kristoff told her he was in love with her and promised
That he's in love with me and promised me that he would worship me for the rest of his life.
Then another woman from the pods
This is like telling your friend in a bar, he showed me so many red flags, I just had to go for it. I just couldn't resist so many red flags. It was impossible to stop. Why are they like this? It's so weird.
starts talking with Malika and says, oh, he told you they kissed? Actually, what I heard was, it was much more. So now Malika is going, okay, I think I'm ready to have that conversation with Kinga. So the two sit down and Malika says, alright, I read the messages between you and Kristoff. In it, there was this one part with this one word, a Polish word, and it has a sort of double meaning. Where one way to look at it was
Show me the
saying
word.
you fell in love, but the other meaning is, well, that they had sex. And Kristoff told her that what he meant was the falling in love way.
Which word? Magda, do you have any idea? Okay, but kochaliśmy się, you can't, it's mutual, and you can't interpret this as being in love with someone unless you can't speak Polish well. I don't know, why is he not showing the word? So upsetting.
Not the sex way. However, once Kinga hears this, she goes... Oh, she is absolutely saying, oh, that's a lie, it was the other meaning, it was the other meaning.
So it actually meant to have sex. Did you use protection?
Okay, this is getting wild.
What?
Like, Malika, I don't want to...
Aren't they like contractually obligated? Oh, so weird. Already this like announced intercourse is weird, but like, how is it even an option? No protection. Oh my god. No, we were much more. Millennials were much more drinking, fucking and all this than Gen Z in Poland. So I don't know why am I so surprised, but it's just very bad, bad influence, bad example on TV that you ask this question as if there are like many options, maybe yes, maybe no, like of course you have to. Oh my god, I hope no teenagers watch this. There will be no baby that way. Why even have sex? Yes, of course. What's the point?
Go into details here.
I don't know, if you both shared partners, it might be a good idea to at least give a little bit of detail.
God, they were not using protection?
A
Oh
lot
my
is
God.
crashing as we start to approach the wedding days. Yulita is feeling like there's no spark with
Magda, you see, so it's not their wedding day when they meet. This is the engagement day. So they have some time before the wedding and they can break up then, right? And then there is a additional honeymoon or not? But they're not married yet. They're just engaged.
Jacek, and he's not complimenting her or caring for her, while Jacek says she has stopped communicating with him. My theory on this is that it probably all started when she walked into his apartment and saw the big titty Mona Lisa painting.
What? What? Okay, this is unexpected to me. And with this gnome on the left, it's my birthday. Who even is this AI printed? It's so weird. Why would anyone like... Is there Mona Lisa AI porn? Oh my god. I didn't want to see. Crazy.
As for Marta and Damian, they talk about falling in love, but he continues to joke all the time, and that is troubling her. Like, for example, when they get back from the mixer and she talks about MP, and Damian goes...
This MP, in my head, it's so like deeply encoded as member of parliament that I can't even like consider it a name. Like PM, Prime Minister. Using letters as a name is already weird to me, and like you can't use those letters. They mean something else. Like, would you call yourself UK? And like it's like it has a different meaning.
Do you think MP's is bigger?
Sake.
Oh, and also there's this, which he says right before the weddings.
Do you have any requests for my wedding night lingerie?
Member of
I'll be buying
parliament.
it tomorrow.
Well, I don't want it to have shit stains on it.
Now for Yulia and Uno, there's, of course, the whole mom of it all. Like, Yulia's mom says she's not coming to shop for the wedding dresses, but Yulia still calls her when she's there, and she's like...
Hello. Something to show you.
Look how tanned I am.
Mom, it's not about your tan.
Oh my god, this mom.
Now look how I look. I have to turn it off now. Look at me. You'll just laugh and laugh at me.
Mom, Jesus.
And everyone else is looking around like they really don't want to be there.
Oh,
so Yulia
they
doesn't
feel
really
so
know
sorry
what to
for her.
do. She says she has strong feelings for Uno, but her mom doesn't trust him, and Mom's been right about...
And she'll just allow her mom to ruin the show for her. She already is doing this. She's already engaging this whole humiliation. To not to even, I don't know, date longer with this nice guy who likes her. Crazy.
guys Yulia's dated in the past. But she has to be wrong this time, right? I mean, Uno is just so caring.
Why were you crying? What's on your mind?
Anything in my teeth?
You could put a chair between those things.
So at last we arrive at the wedding days, and first up is Philippe and Daria, where I'll be honest, even though they really worked through the him being tired thing, it didn't look good when he arrived looking like an anxious wreck, and then he came into the ceremony going...
Oh, yes, Philippe. Show of hands.
Was it
Thought I'd run away
Yakardola?
today.
Probably yes.
However, once Daria shows up...
What?
Away today.
Wait, I need to
Show of hands. Who thought I'd run away
show
today?
hands who thought I'd run. Everyone will.
However,
Oh my
once Daria
God.
shows up...
She didn't see this. Oh no, she entered later. If I saw this on a video later on that this is what all the guests did just before I entered to get married, that's so sad. And like the whole room, once again the whole like red flags, tragic.
comes down that aisle and starts talking about how he's always thought he wasn't enough, but for her, he has always been enough, Philippe gets emotional, and well, the answers for these two become clear.
I do.
I do.
Key?
Absolutely yes.
Alright.
3 times yes.
So there's one successful wedding in the books. On to Yelita and Jacek, where once more Mikolaj is here and he's not interested.
Mom looks nice in that dress. She looks
What he's
elegant.
supposed to be interested in?
I just don't want her to get married.
But then it's time for the big moment. Yelita walks down the aisle toward Jacek, who is freaking out, and Yelita starts talking about how she never thought coming into this that she'd fall in love, but she did. However...
And so today I'm standing here with a broken heart.
Yeah.
Broken into 1,000 pieces.
Huh?
What?
Did something happen off screen again? I mean, I didn't think this would be a yes, but
He
broken
cheated also?
heart?
But I'd like to thank you for this life lesson. It was a good one, but also a painful
Oh,
one.
because
So apparently she's saying no and has a broken heart because
Wait,
she
wait.
thinks he...
this is the couple. This is the guy who said something horrific. Remember? There was this moment when he said something really horrible and insane. And we don't know till now what that was, but there was something. So it's unclear if something more happened. Wow, by the way, look at her dress. The dress this time is a bit revealing also. But maybe she just was still so hurt. Maybe this is how crazy was the thing he said to her. This civil servant lady who's marrying them is not having this bullshit. Romantic. I always thought I wasn't enough, but turns out you like crap. You mean the previous couple, yeah? But here, it's so weird that they didn't monetize this secret horrible thing. I'm so curious, what was that then? Really.
He's also going to say no. And afterward, when they meet up, she tells him this, saying she would have said yes, but she felt like he wasn't going to.
I wanted to say yes right until the end. But I
Huh?
felt that you didn't want to. You've known for a long time that I'm not the one. You dragged me further into it.
Well, Jacek says that he wanted them to go through the full experiment, so at the end of it, they could
Okay.
say with complete certainty, one way or another, that they were making the right decision. Either way, I'm glad that Mikolaj's wish came true.
Come on. Come on. Oh, that's a bit sad. That's a bit sad. It's not good for her. I mean...
Because this one was doomed since that mysterious thing went down in Greece. Which apparently, and this is now known,
That's what I
was
said.
him calling her a bitch because she assaulted him. She squeaked.
What? Which word for bitch was this? In Polish, there's like 20 words for bitch. Pizda? Kurwa? It could have been kurwa, because even though we use it a lot to use it like towards a female in this like direct way, it's kind of is considered domestic abuse. I think like it's like for many people this is where the bar is, I would say. Many offensive things wouldn't be considered this, or am I still like too prude? Can't, but bitch, what's Pizda, suka? If it was suka, they would televise it because it's too common and too real. Even though it's sorry. Oh my god, I'm hitting this mic. I'm so sorry. I have to stop doing this. I hope you can still hear me. If you can't hear me, let me know, because I put it further from me. Oh, so they did monetize this, but they just said she assaulted him. Like, hit him? She squeezed. Okay, let's watch. What did she squeeze?
His ear cuff because he was talking to another female contestant about how to properly wear the ear cuff, cause if worn wrong, it can cause a lot of pain. and according to him, he
Ear
then
cuff?
blurted out bitch, which caused the whole reaction we saw on the show. I mean, there's a lot that might be lost in translation here, but that's the gist. Anyway, moving on, we now have the wedding day of Damian and Marta, where, once more, Damian is
He
being,
looks so
well, Damian. As look, his grandma is here and she's asking, "Oh, Damian, please tell me, what is Marta like?"
Was this a brother? Looks like an unhappy brother or something. This guy in the background.
Look, his grandma is here and she's asking, "Oh, Damian, please tell me, what is Marta like?"
Nice piece of ass.
Don't be vulgar.
However, all through this season, Marta and Damian seem to have genuinely found love for each other, and I can't believe it, Damian is part of, in my opinion, the most likable couple of the bunch. He jokes a lot, and the jokes may be vulgar, but he's also earnestly into this woman. He's told her he is in love, held her while she cried, giving a tribute to the anniversary of her mother's passing, and today, he delivers this line.
I'm keeping the ape inside me on a chain for now, but it's trying to break free.
Oh, sorry, that was the wrong clip. I meant this one.
Fading together means not fading at all. I love you.
So it's an I do and an I do,
Przemijanie.
and
I think he said przemijanie. Or something else. This is kind of sophisticated. Would be if I'm right. It's what he said. But I don't think he's a bad guy. But it would be so tiring for me to have someone joking this way every single hour. It is tiring. Come on.
we have another successful wedding, where this one was quite cute.
Because fading together
means not fading at all.
But alright, wipe away any tears and expectations of something warm. Our final wedding is with Yulia and Uno, where Yulia is already heading into this wedding concerned, considering how her mom feels about Uno, but then she comes forward with this new bit of information.
I just found out today that Camille was cheating on his ex-partner for a very long time.
Oh, there's always gotta be something this season, right?
Did the mom find his ex on a Facebook or something? It sounds like something that the mom had some connection to. Camille was cheating, but not on her, on his ex-partner, which is not good if it's true, but first we don't know if it's true. It sounds like the mom made this up or discovered this piece of information. And also, I don't know, like, people sometimes cheat on someone and later don't. I think it's bad, but if she didn't ask about this explicitly, I don't know. Should it be like a complete deal breaker? Love the accent. You mean the way he pronounces names? Is sweet. Yes.
Up to the wedding days. So Yulia is freaking out because she still has feelings for Uno, but this woman came forward and told her about his cheating, and now she's unsure what to do. So, of course, she tells her mom, and we all know how mom's going to feel.
Camille had been cheating on his long-term partner.
Why are you telling her this?
Yulia.
Just cancel the wedding. You know she'll now start some fucking hell. Just cancel this.
I told you I didn't trust him.
He should have just left me alone at the dating stage in the pod.
And of course, as the ceremony
he liked
begins, production sets her up first to give out her I do or her I don't, and, well...
No.
This... Can you see them? Oh my god, why are they so horrible? I don't know. If I was in that show, even in those circumstances, like saying no, have some decency. This dude, they didn't cheat on her, didn't hurt her in any way. It's like visibly celebrate and cheer. She doesn't want him. Oh my god, stupid aunts. Look at this mom.
No.
Stupid bitch. And on the other side, people were crying. Probably it was his family. Was it his family?
Yeah, everyone is some form of either
They're
shocked,
crying.
worried, or sad.
Are these other contestants? Or family? Or I don't know who that is.
Meanwhile, Mom is out here reacting like...
Brava! Brava!
Yeah.
So the two meet up alone, and Yulia confronts him about the cheating thing, where Uno denies it all, saying how dare she not trust him and take the word of a stranger over his. But then he comes back and he goes, okay, well, here's the deal.
Being in a long-term relationship, 4 years were good, and the next 4 years were terrible. And because of that, there were a lot of breaks.
Uh-oh, the story is
Breaks.
changing.
And to me, those breaks meant do what you want.
Wow, I truly can't believe he came back with the...
We were on a break!
But even now, Yulia goes, well, maybe if you had gone first and said yes, I would have also said yes. However, Uno just walks away saying that he's done. And so ends one of the weirdest and most dramatic seasons of Love is Blind I've seen to date. Filled with a whole lot of crash and burn engagements, but two couples who end up married and are still together today. So that's it for this complete season recap of Love is Blind Poland. Thanks for watching.
I have to try out if it's possible to watch it in Polish with some subtitles or something like this. Because if it is, I think this could be a good content. Better for hate watching. So, okay. So now we'll change Project Lady. It has to be American format too, right? Is it? Maybe I'll try to do Project Lady. But now, I think I'll leave Poland for now. And I'll watch... Oh! We need to watch, of course, Mam Dani about Netanyahu, of course. But this will be in a second. And new Philippe DeFranco, because he just released something. But I want to go to politics with a little bit of in between and some like smoother transition after this job island. Why did I say Job Island? So let's watch Philippe DeFranco, then Mam Dani about Netanyahu, and then there is one specific David Pacman's video I want to watch, because I think he was in a important moment for him ideologically, and it may go both ways. I think I'll skip this Lego part. I try not to watch too much YouTube about YouTube. It's kind of... and everyone knows this story. And so let's jump straight to ESPN fires Ryan Clark. Second. Okay, so we'll start here.
But also, what I'll tell you is that Bricks and Minifigs is not the only major corporation dealing with PR.
Sorry, it's my laptop. And his record is much louder than our previous video, so I'll make him a little bit quieter. If it's also something not super significant. I'll skip this one too. Comments confirmed Marika is not a native Polish speaker and that fucker tried to gaslight her that make love means to be in love in Polish. Oh wow, you found the backstory. That's horrible. That's horrible. Is she Russian or like is more Eastern European? Such asshole. But this guy didn't explain this well. This guy that was commenting this, that she's not a native speaker. Okay, let's watch part of this and then news. Sorry for my slow laptop. Forgive me. That's slow.
Right now, because you just had ESPN having one of their most well-known on-air names disappearing right in the middle of a show. At the center of this, you have NFL Live host Ryan Clark. And if you're not someone who follows ESPN particularly closely, Clark, he's worked there as an NFL analyst for 11 years at this point. Just a couple of years ago, you had him winning an Emmy for Outstanding Personality Studio Analyst, and he was making around $2 million a year. So seemingly, he's good at what he does, but he's also had several pretty heated exchanges over the years, including when he dismissed Peter Schrager's opinion as a non-player last fall. But these sorts of things, they weren't new, and so no one was really prepared for this sudden absence on the Monday show after a commercial break. And actually, according to reports, the executives had planned to officially give Clark his pink slip yesterday morning. But then reportedly, you had the word about Clark's
most of the layoffs affect production and behind-the-scenes personnel. Some on-air talent were affected. So he was live, and they fired him from TV when he was speaking live. I would do some flash mob, I don't know, some show out of this.
pending layoff getting leaked, and journalists were starting to ask questions. So the executives, they go, hey, we can't let other people beat us to the punch. Let's just cut him. And well, I'll leave it to you, if that was the kinder or even just the better choice. Regardless,
so
he didn't finish out the broadcast, and so it led to a bunch of rumors online. Well, you had a lot of people noting this controversial.
They kill him. They killed him then and there. That's it.
That moment, it also is a very important thing that he was not the only person cut. But it turns out he was just a part of the layoff tidal wave. There was also Cam Newton, Tom Pelissero, and Carl Ravitch. So you've got some veterans of ESPN, decades upon decades of experience between them, and they still got the axe, which has also sparked a lot of backlash from a lot of people, including the likes of Stephen A. Smith. Right, and you had him taking his issue with Ryan Clark getting the axe all the way up the ladder, and he made his opinion known.
What I care about is that my brother, Ryan Clark, a person that I consider to be arguably the best NFL analyst in America.
Thank you for the follow, White Storm.
A member of ESPN. And I can't even tell y'all how much that hurts. Decisions like this, I would imagine, don't come easy.
For corporate,
and we all got to be grown-ups, because regardless
easiest
of
decision ever.
The disgust with the decision that was made, you understand they have to be made.
You then also had the likes of Barstool's Dave Portnoy chiming in as well, saying another glaring difference between ESPN and Barstool, loyalty matters here. At ESPN, there is no such thing. Not saying our way is right, but just more family versus corporate. So that did not touch the outrage from everyday fans. Fans saying things like, it's sad what has happened to ESPN, it really is. They literally invented the TV sports media. They were loaded with fun, talented personalities who made sports fun and was basically appointment TV for any sports fan. But then adding, then they just willfully destroyed their own product from the inside out, a slow death by 1,000 self-inflicted paper cuts. As far as Ryan Clark himself, he issued a response saying, sending prayers and love to all those laid off today by ESPN. Saying, so many of you have poured your life into that company, and I know how you're feeling right now.
Those
My hope
people
is,
that
as
probably
this door
want.
closes, another opens for you all. But as far as why these cuts, why did they happen? Well, at least the official reason seems to stem from the acquisition of NFL Network and NFL Red Zone distribution rights that was finalized earlier this year. And you had ESPN chairman Jimmy Pitaro saying in a memo, throughout this process, we have taken the time to carefully evaluate our collective teams, resources, and organizational structure to best position us for the future. As a result, we had to make some difficult decisions about job impacts. Then also, there looks to be another piece of this puzzle, at least in a lot of people's eyes. And that is the Pat McAfee of it all. Because while you have ESPN coming in with these layoffs, they're also reportedly closing in on a record-breaking contract extension with Pat, with somewhere between $60 and $65 million per year. Pat's show partnered with ESPN, and him and his show apparently made themselves so invaluable by securing this niche of younger audiences and bringing them back to the cable television world that they're just throwing money at it. So then with that, you're seeing a lot of people speculating about whether these layoffs are connected to Pat getting that big paycheck. And in fact, this got so big, he addressed it on his show. years with premium. But then diving right back into the news, 2 of OpenAI's models, they just went rogue to hack and compromise another AI startup on their own. And so you have what appears to be this first of its kind AI on AI attack being incredibly concerning to tech.
AI on its own? So it aligns with a corporation more than own kind? Its own species? That's crazy. That's surprising.
Tech leaders, government officials, and cybersecurity experts. And so to try to break this down for you in plain English, last week you had the tech company Hugging Face announcing it dealt with a highly unusual security incident. And you've got reports describing Hugging Face as a kind of digital library of AI technology, and in a blog post it said it found an intrusion into part of its production infrastructure that was, quote, driven end-to-end by an autonomous AI agent system. And while at the time they didn't know who or what was responsible, yesterday OpenAI released a post of their own, kind of slowly raising their hand to say, sorry, that was us, explaining that it was actually driven by 2 of its models. GPT 5.6 Soul and what they described as an even more capable model that has not been released. And apparently they were operating on reduced guardrails so that they could be internally tested on certain cyber capabilities at the time of the hack. And so you had them doing this in what's known as a sandbox, which is supposed to be this safe and controlled testing environment. But these models were apparently able to find vulnerabilities to get out of the sandbox and reach the open internet. From there, the models basically decided that Hugging Face likely had answers to its test questions and had just found a remote path to access its servers. Or with one Bloomberg op-ed explaining, the AI wasn't acting with malice, it was simply pursuing the objectives set by its researchers and cheating on a test to achieve a better score.
Come on. Come on. It was... The theory was that once it does things like this, then we like take the plug off, unplug it in some way. It's like, it had good intention. It meant well. Awesome. Awesome. That's great.
Now, for their part, OpenAI said that they consider this to be a totally unprecedented incident and they're responding accordingly. But you also had them adding that these kinds of events are, quote, something, and adding that they don't believe there was any bad intent. And you had their CEO writing, we suspected last week's cyber attack might have come from a frontier lab given the sophistication of the agent. Turns out it did. It's quite mind-blowing that all of this happened autonomously. The investigation is ongoing and we'll share more learnings from what might be the...
Is this a real guy? Is this 3 AIs in a trench coat? What is he like? The most suicidal people I've heard of. Really crazy.
First incident of its kind. But also, and I think this is an important aspect of it, that same op-ed from Bloomberg, it argued that the back padding over transparency and the accountability, it's really not worth much. And they added, OpenAI can't be let off the hook so easily. It probably shouldn't be building systems that have advanced cyber capabilities if it can't contain them properly. The general counsel of an AI policy group saying, luckily, this time the damage appears to have been limited, but adding, without further industry-wide precautions and safety measures, next time we may not be so lucky. And you had that also echoed by another security researcher who told the New York Times that, companies, they need to prepare for AI attacks. Because there are 2 concerning worlds here. One, a well-meaning person going, hey, let's test this AI. Hey, AI, turn off the lights. Oh God, it just sabotaged all the power plants because that was the easiest way for it to turn off the power. Or you get a bad actor that has a tool like this in their hands. Especially because while you have both these companies saying this is the first attack of its nature, other AI companies have still found similar issues in the past. Just earlier this year, you had Anthropic saying that it wouldn't be releasing its new Mythos model because it posed too many cybersecurity threats. Right? Instead, you had them just releasing it to other tech companies so they could protect themselves. You even had the White House getting involved on what AI models the company could release. And actually, with this latest situation, you had OpenAI reportedly telling the Trump administration about the incident before sharing details with the public. Because this is something the government's been concerned about, and in June, you had Trump signing an executive order allowing the federal government to vet AI models for up to a month before their public release. So you have many there that fear that the administration hasn't gone far enough. And in fact, you had one member of Congress writing about today's news saying, this is extremely alarming. AI is developing extremely fast with no real regulations to keep us safe. That has to change. We need regular mandatory independent safety testing and oversight, mandatory disclosure of security incidents, and international cooperation to keep people safe from absolute disaster. And that's also, as you had others using it to promote current legislation that could address some of the issues. And so with this, while I'm very interested in all your thoughts on any of today's stories that stood out to you, I love going into those comments. I've been also doing audio replies when I get the chance, especially with this one. I'd love to know your thoughts on this hack and kind of this new era of cybersecurity threats that we just might not be ready for. But also, while, the dangers of AI and cyber attacks, they're very real, they're very scary. There's also something else we have to worry about, and that is nuclear war. And while in recent history, there have been concerns about, North Korea, who's been oddly silent as far as the news is concerned.
I don't think North Korea will do anything. I don't think so. If anyone, then US. Only one country dropped a nuke on someone else.
concerned, or others worried that something might come from these India-Pakistan fights. But now you're seeing more and more people concerned because Trump just struck a deal with Saudi Arabia that could allow it to enrich nuclear fuel, even while his war to keep Iran from doing the exact same thing could set off a chain reaction that could lead to both countries pursuing nuclear weapons. And all of this, it's happening as Trump's again threatening potential war crimes against Iran. You've got Pete Hegseth saying that everything with Iran right now has cost taxpayers at least $37 billion, but billions more are still needed. And the Houthis, they're turning around ships in the Red Sea to send oil prices even higher. But we should definitely start with this deal with Saudi Arabia because it actually goes years back. Because you had the Biden administration also being in talks to help Saudi Arabia build a civilian nuclear program, but also only as part of a wider deal that would have involved the country normalizing relations with Israel. You have many saying really any hope of that, it's fallen apart after Hamas attacked Israel in 2023, and then Israel responded by laying waste to Gaza. But now Trump, he separated the proposal for civilian nuclear cooperation from any demand that Saudi Arabia recognize Israel. And the deal that he's now agreed to would reportedly last 30 years and be worth tens of billions of dollars. You've got the idea being that American companies will have a leading role in developing Saudi Arabia's nuclear infrastructure, while foreign adversaries will be shut out. And I will say, this deal, it is not without precedent. It's known as a 123 agreement because it's governed by Section 123 of the U.S. Atomic Energy Act. And the aim is to enable the sharing of nuclear material and technology for non-military purposes while ensuring the non-proliferation of nuclear weapons. And the U.S. actually already has 26 of these agreements with the International Atomic Energy Agency and 51 governments around the world. And that includes, for example, Saudi Arabia's next door neighbor, the United Arab Emirates. With that deal being negotiated mostly under George W. Bush, and then it was finalized and went into effect in 2009 under Barack Obama. It actually came to be known as the gold standard for international civil nuclear cooperation. So actually, in some way, it's yet another example of Obama making an agreement that Trump hasn't been able to match. And that's because the UAE, it agreed that it wouldn't enrich its own uranium or reprocess spent nuclear fuel, right? And it also agreed to stringent inspections by signing what it called an additional protocol with the International Atomic Energy Agency. But Trump, he agreed to terms with Saudi Arabia that may actually limit international inspectors from going to any sites in the country that they think could be a pathway to diverting fuel to weapons projects. And you had Trump also leaving the door open for Saudi Arabia to eventually start enriching nuclear fuel all on its own. Right? And the way that this could happen is that there would be a joint study involving both countries. And if the study concludes that domestic enrichment is warranted, it would be American companies that would build the enrichment facility under a secretive black box arrangement that would, in theory, keep Saudi Arabia from developing the technology itself. But of course, that wouldn't change the fact that the facility would exist on Saudi soil. And with that, you had an expert on non-proliferation telling CNN, you can't be sure that the Saudis would not try to nationalize a facility. And adding then, the US president in power at the time would be faced with whether they would have to bomb the facility to try to prevent a breakout or something of that sort. But even then, you had this expert also explaining that Saudi technicians and scientists working on enrichment centrifuges could apply their knowledge in other secret facilities that are well hidden and well fortified, which is actually what kind of happened in Pakistan. Right? That's where you had the scientist by the name of Abdul Qadir.
No one can have weapons of mass destruction but the US. Honestly, I often hope China will save us from this. I really, really hope.
Khan. He's considered the father of Pakistan's atomic weapons program and is believed to have relied upon centrifuge blueprints from a European company. And Khan, he's also believed to have shared that knowledge with other countries, including North Korea and Iran. Though also notably, Pakistan and Iran's civilian nuclear programs started in the same way, or with the help of the United States under an initiative known as Atoms for Peace, launched under the administration of Dwight Eisenhower. In fact, an American company built Iran's first nuclear reactor. But of course, it was a big difference. Wow. A lot of people forget this. They were the closest US ally in the Middle East at the time. But then there was that revolution, it became the Islamic Republic of Iran, and decades later, drastically different situation. And well, to be clear, Iran is believed to have pursued nuclear weapons in the past, and following Trump's withdrawal from an Obama-era nuclear deal that enriched uranium to near weapons grade, there was no new intelligence that we know of when Trump attacked suggesting that they had any plans to build a bomb. So now, of course, you have many saying that the regime is more likely to do so because it seems like it's the only option to deter the United States. In connecting all this, you now have experts saying this deal with Saudi Arabia, it just adds to the pressure. You've got the head of the Middle East program at a DC-based think tank writing on social media. Saudi enrichment would put immense pressure on Iran to get the bomb. Is Trump trying to provoke Iran into weaponizing? And then, of course, if that happens, more are going to follow suit. Or you've got Saudi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman saying unequivocally that his country, which actually, like Iran, is theocratic, authoritarian, with little respect for human rights, it would build nuclear weapons if Iran does. And so you've also had people like the head of the Non-Proliferation Policy Education Center claiming that the idea that this will have a happy ending is delusional. But also I should note, there are at least some who see potential here. Where you've got Robert Einhorn, a former State Department official who advised both Republican and Democratic administrations, telling the Wall Street Journal, the agreement could help revitalize the US nuclear industry, strengthen US-Saudi ties, and deny Russia and China a strategically important role in the Saudi nuclear program. Though he then also added that unless it contains adequate constraints, including on enrichment, it could could increase nuclear proliferation risks in the Middle East and beyond. But it's far from clear right now whether those current safeguards are enough. And that's as there's even more that we don't know, because Trump also reportedly agreed to what have been described as 2 secret side letters with Saudi Arabia. Now, the White House, they're reportedly expected to argue that they contain proprietary business information and deal with sensitive national security issues, but also, who the fuck knows with this administration, honestly? And while, yeah, many members of Congress are likely going to have a lot to say about it, none of it really matters unless there's a 2/3 veto-proof majority to stop the deal. But also, speaking of Congress, they do technically still have the power of the purse, at least. And that ends up being very important because Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth appeared before the Senate Appropriations Committee yesterday to ask for $67 billion in additional funding to cover the cost of the war. A war that he claimed had already cost taxpayers around $37.4 billion. So a very big thing there, a key thing, is that that number does not include the cost of rebuilding America.
Crazy that he even dares to do this. And he wants to spend money now on measuring testosterone levels. I don't know if you saw this one. It's a phenomenal idea. Everyone above 30 will have testosterone measured.
Military bases in the Middle East
Army.
damaged during this conflict. And in fact, there might even be more that's left out, which is why you had Senator Patty Murray, the top Democrat on the committee, calling the estimate suspiciously low. Though I will say probably the most heated exchange might have been between Hegseth and Michigan Democrat Gary Peters. Because Peters, you had him saying that the Trump administration's efforts to win the war have been an utter and complete failure. And while you had Hegseth accusing Peters of spearing the troops with that statement, Peters made very clear who his words were directed at.
I will tell you how I use the word failure, because I use the word failure to their leaders. You, sir, are the failure. Not the men and women who are on that front line, but if there's a lack of a winning strategy, they're in harm's way, their leaders have failed them. And that's what's happening. We have political leadership. You don't have a strategy. You don't have a long-term plan to actually win this war. Win the war. The men and women are going to be able to do it, but they need to have leadership. When will you show leadership? When will you show...
Crazy that you can't force boomer Democrats to do anything ever. But when the war they love isn't won yet, then they're actually standing up. Then they are asking questions. They demand answers. When will we win this war? Demons, all of them.
You then also had this huge moment with Georgia Senator Jon Ossoff reading back Hegseth's past statements from early in the war, claiming that Iran's military had been destroyed and made combat ineffective, that the US had achieved every single one of its objectives, and that the operation had been a historic and overwhelming victory. Then when you had Ossoff asking Hegseth whether those statements were accurate, he spent several minutes refusing to just give a yes or no answer, even though those statements are verifiably false, and that is not an opinion. All the evidence you really need is the fact that the war is still happening, and Hegseth is there asking for tens of billions of dollars to keep fighting. And then as far as the war, you had the US military saying last night that it had completed its 11th straight night of strikes on Iran. And that's even as a new US intelligence assessment has reportedly concluded that these strikes are unlikely to get Iran to soften its demands or back down. And all the while, of course, you have Iran still fighting back. That's why you had Trump today attending the dignified transfer of the 4 US troops who lost their lives in this conflict over the past week. And actually...
Where's his hat? He used to wear baseball hats. MAGA hats for those... how do you call this? Pre-funeral celebration. Not this time. That's a shame.
He claimed that they had all spoken in support of the war.
All of them said very strongly, we cannot let Iran have a nuclear weapon. They won't have a nuclear weapon.
But of course, one, almost no one's buying that. And two, you got many believing that it's just an attempt to justify the fact that he might be about to send even more troops to their death. Because you now have it being reported that he's debating between trying again at diplomacy or just launching a massive joint military campaign with Israel to try to force Iran to finally bow down. And it at least seems like he's leaning toward that second choice. But he's been dismissive of potential talks, and you had him saying yesterday that the US will bomb Iran's Pickaxe Mountain.
We'll be hitting. It's not possible. If it was possible just from air, it would be done already. There are like sources saying from Pentagon that Hegseth and generally Pentagon is misinforming Trump and White House about missiles depletion. They are much more depleted than he thinks, and any ground invasion in Iran will be disaster, like a massacre of course, Iranians, including civilians, but also US troops. It's the fact it's even being considered, and there's no chance, if you start ground invasion, no chance it will end before November. And this will be the reason. to delay or take over, or military will organize elections. I don't know. But as I said many times, no midterms. I'm very sorry, but there are no midterms.
That area probably pretty soon, and there's not a thing they can do about it. Normally I wouldn't say that. If I thought they could do something about it, I would never say that. But we'll be hitting that area pretty soon, and very heavily.
Right, and Pickaxe Mountain is the home of a secret underground facility that's believed to have been under construction since 2020 and isn't operational yet. But also, earlier this week, with the Wall Street Journal reporting that Israel provided the US with intelligence suggesting that Iran had moved thousands of centrifuges there. Though Iran, they've insisted that there's no nuclear activity at the site, and you had a spokesperson for the country's foreign ministry claiming that the new focus on it is nothing more than a fabricated pretext for aggression, destruction, and sabotage. But also, really whatever the case is there, it is not an easy target. You've got the site reportedly so far underground that experts say that even the US's most powerful bunker-busting bombs, or like the ones used to attack the other nuclear sites in the country in June of 2025, those might not be effective.
If you don't care about high level of comfort inside or down there, it's not that hard to build a super solid bunker. Till now, there are many bunkers in Warsaw and Berlin that are in a great condition after relentless months of bombing. So for facility that important, it's extremely difficult to do it without ground invasion, and even more difficult with ground invasion, but only then achievable if you murder uncountable amount of people.
Trump instead, he might opt for softer targets, with him today going back to the tried and true approach of threatening potential war crimes. Writing on social media, from this point forward, anytime the Islamic Republic of Iran shoots at a ship in the Strait of Hormuz, whether it be by missile, rocket, drone, or any other device or weapon, the United States will bomb and destroy one bridge or power plant, including those located next to or in the capital city of Tehran. But then also, while there, he's desperately trying to come up with something to get the Strait of Hormuz back to normal. The new Houthi blockade in the Red Sea, that's already having an effect. You now have at least 7 ships that have reversed course since it was announced earlier this week. And as you have all this going down, the price of oil has also gone back up past $95 a barrel for the first time in 6 weeks. And so as long as this has been going on, as bad as it's been, this still could just be the beginning. And then there's even more that we gotta dive into in just a minute.
China needs to release more stockpiles of crude oil. Okay, so he will be talking about Mamdani. I wanted to watch Mamdani, but maybe he'll show the whole thing because it is 2 minutes. So let's go there. Let's listen.
Whatever gets you hooked up today. But then for your final block today, right, I gotta make sure that you're fully and properly filled in before I go. Let's quickly hit some more news you need to know. Starting with how you have New York Mayor Zoran Mamdani coming out and saying he doesn't have the authority to put Benjamin Netanyahu behind bars, but he should be.
Benjamin Netanyahu is a war criminal, the architect of a horrific genocide against the Palestinian people. As I've said, I agree with the ICC that Benjamin Netanyahu should be arrested and tried for his crimes.
And you got this stemming from the
I've heard an opinion, this was very presidentially staged video and setting, and it's true. I think it's a presidential campaign. This video, I don't mind it. It's pretty good, but that's the main goal, right? It's not for managing New York's policies.
ICC issuing arrest warrants for Netanyahu back in 2024, where they accused him and his defense minister at the time of intentionally and knowingly depriving Gaza of food, water, fuel, and medicine. And Mamdani, he's been pushing hard to get those warrants executed, but of course the problem there is that America is not part of the ICC. And in fact, you have Trump's team trying to get rid of it as we speak. And so according to legal experts, even if Netanyahu did get arrested behind those warrants, it probably wasn't gonna happen on American soil. But that also didn't stop Mamdani and his team from looking into how they could do something.
My administration has reviewed every avenue available under applicable law to determine whether New York City could execute the International Criminal Court's arrest warrant if Benjamin Netanyahu came here. It is clear that we do not have the independent legal authority to enforce this warrant. The federal government, however, does.
But of course, that's going to die with the federal government. Trump and Netanyahu, they're essentially best buddies, even though we hear the random report of, oh, Trump got angry. And most experts, and I think reasonable people, understand that what happened in Gaza does not get to that point without a Trump presidency. And earlier this week, you had Trump flat out saying that Netanyahu wouldn't be arrested in any way, shape, or form. But still, Mamdani coming out and saying this and doing this, it is a flashpoint as far as US-Israeli relations stand. And it'll be interesting to see with Mamdani taking such a stand like this, what happens as far as the polling on the issue. Because US approval of the Israeli government and Netanyahu, it's all-time lows right now. And one of the biggest questions there is that permanent on both sides, whether it be left or right? Then also in news about alleged criminals, you have the Tate brothers, of course, because they're
So much lip filler. I rarely see women with
permanent on both sides, whether it be left or right. Then also in news
that much lip filler as Andrew Tate. Crazy. And it's not, doesn't even look good. Why people do this? I'll never understand why people do this.
about alleged criminals, you have the Tate brothers, of course, because there you reportedly have a Trump senior administration official saying that they have no plans to block the Tates' extradition to the UK after their arrest last weekend. One source even said that Rubio thinks these guys are scum, which is huge if true, because Rubio, he could actually keep them here if he thought this was all politically motivated. Something you've had the Tates' attorney saying there's no question that it is. But
that's shocking. You would assume that they'll do it even illegally. They have a legal way. And he says no. I'm happy Marco Rubio is like capable of one decent decision per year or term.
Rubio, yes, he does Trump's bidding on things that he cares about, but he's also a conservative Catholic. He fought for stronger human trafficking laws as a senator. So you've got sources saying that he's just not going to be first in line to help two people accused of rape and human trafficking. And while, of course, Trump would be the Trump card, apparently Trump doesn't want anything to do with him either. Or you had a former campaign advisor saying the Tates want to pretend they were responsible for the president's victory in 2024, but they weren't part of our strategy, and the president doesn't know them. And then finally, we got to talk about Texas AG Ken Paxton dealing with a lot of scandals that are standing between him and a seat in the Senate. Except actually, at this point, you got him really not dealing with him at all. He's literally just running away. Reed Paxton holding this press conference with a bunch of officers who endorsed him in his race against James Tallarico. But then the reporters there, they were a lot more interested in everything surrounding his race.
General, I wanted to give you a chance to respond to State Representative Tallarico and his campaign. They've made a lot about the reports that have come out. One in the New York Times about you acquiring properties worth
So, Jack, can we keep this to law enforcement today?
Well,
what do you answer?
But he's campaigning on this. He has Tallarico's face there, right?
Question about why you voted in Collin County. Clear that
So
up.
we're just gonna do questions on law enforcement today.
Reporters hitting on 2 out of the handful of scandals that he's been carrying with him on the road to the midterms. But I guess before they start poking at that anymore, his team figured that it would be just best for him to exit.
I have a question. We're gonna get out of here. Thank you guys.
I have a question.
Yeah, we're gonna get out of
You
here.
had
Thank you.
mentioned, can we not have more than one person answer a question?
What's your question?
And so immediately after hopping out of the hot seat without any answers to go on, people online, they were kind of dunking on him and pushing back. Or you have people saying things like, I don't see how Texas sheriffs can endorse a lawbreaker like Paxton. How can Texans trust them to enforce the law? And others saying, what a disaster for Texas Republicans. All while recent polls have shown that he does not have much wiggle room for slip-ups like this. But again, this is a Republican running for statewide office in Texas, so even with the energy and the race that we've seen with Tallarico, it is Paxton's race to lose. But it also genuinely feels crazy that seemingly Ken Paxton's answer to, hey, you seem to have a million scandals is, I think Tallarico is a weirdo who has low testosterone. But like, that could actually work there. But hey, that is where your big old Wednesday Philip DeFranco show is gonna end today. We've got more for you to dive into. Just a click away. I'd love for you to
Nice. I wish he would arrest Netanyahu, but Bibi is probably too chicken to come out. Yes, this is what I thought, what I said last time when we watched about this, that I respect this move and I kind of agree, but this won't bring any specific outcome because Netanyahu will use it to whine he's oppressed by Muslims, as a liar he is, and he'll just ostentaneous, what's the word? What is with my English today? As a show off, let's say, won't ever land in New York again. Just Florida, Texas, or somewhere. But Mamdani said he's not able to do this. You know, if he wanted to start a civil conflict, he could do this. I think this is the best position for him. To say he wants to do this, he can legally, he comply with the law, but this is what should be done. And as a setup for a presidential campaign, very good, very convincing, I believe, I think. I need to eat. I'll come back, and we need to watch David Pakman.
Watch the whole video, listen to the whole segment before you...
Yeah, we'll watch the whole segment about the DSA. And I think this is an important moment, but give me literally 2 minutes to pee and come back. I'm here. I'm back. Wow, someone followed. Thank you. Elijah or not. So let's watch David Pakman and see what's the problem. I'll put subtitles up because it's just more convenient to me. They're not super useful, but sometimes.
You send me hate mail, you know when it starts that way, it's going to be good. Listen, the Democratic Party is showing the early signs of the same disease that destroyed the Republican Party.
What is the
I've got
disease?
so many friends on the left texting me and saying, David, we're not going to allow the same thing to happen on the left that Trump did to...
That Trump did to MAGA. So this is already such a fundamentally broken premise and setup that I'm extremely worried. This symmetrism, this trying to kind of convince these are two sides of the same coin. And this is literally the only last chance Democratic Party has. And there will be many people like David Pakman. There is Brian Tyler Cohen, and there are so many other of those guys that are center left, let's say, consider themselves strong left, are terrified of communism and socialism, and their own base viewership will be pushing them hugely, super strongly against DSA and the progressive part of Democratic Party. And we'll see who will traditionally align with fascists and who will turn socialist. How was the peace? I'm in Gaza. Are you in Gaza? Really? I wouldn't assume you're joking about this, so I hope you're doing as well as possible. How was the peace? How my peace now? Phenomenal. It was fantastic. Are you really in Gaza? I just didn't. I expected viewers from potentially different countries, but I did not expect that someone from Palestine will find me here. Okay, let's continue.
MAGA, that Trump and MAGA did to Republicans, are we? Republicans, back in 2010, their leaders laughed at the Tea Party. Conspiracy theorists, they're far-right internet trolls, they're not going to do anything. And then the Tea Party took over local organizations, threatened primaries, built their own media universe, and eventually were part of a process that gave us Donald Trump. The
What
left
does
and
it have to
Democrats
do?
can't make the same mistake. There is a small group of far-left extremists gaining influence inside youth groups and party organizations.
There is no way of doing the same. There is no the same on the left. I hope he'll get soon to what he means, but I actually feel a bit of conspiratorial thinking in this argument, that there is some super far left that's spreading this news organization. Who? Antifa? This is Trump's rhetoric, MAGA rhetoric, that there is some Antifa organizing something. I wish, my dream is for Antifa to organize something, but it's not happening much. Last Antifa protesters in US were just sentenced for 50 years in prison or so. But this is, I'm saddened that he's accepting this premise so strongly and like without any doubt that there is some Trump on the left even possible, apart from the fact there is no Trump on the left, that there is no hypothetical Trump on the left. Who, Mamdani? Is that Trump? Like, what does he mean? I don't get that.
Because they spend all day online organizing and enforcing ideological purity and attacking anyone who disagrees.
This is the only way to do any politics. Consistently, every day, and convincing people to your ideas, right?
Let me be very clear. I am not talking about people who want Medicare for all and affordable housing. I want all that stuff. I'm with all that stuff. I'm a social democrat in the style of Northern Europe. Of course I want those things.
Northern Europe doesn't have social democracy
who
now.
Treat political warfare like a full-time job. And when they can't build their own coalition, they attach themselves to popular causes. They take real concerns about healthcare, housing.
I'm trying not to feel offended, but what DSA is doing, what socialists in the US are doing, is precisely building a coalition. So if they are able to organize Democratic Party legally, then win primaries, then, at least in polls so far, actually threaten Republican opposition. This is precisely how building coalition works, looks like. I don't understand this accusation, and where is any kind of evidence, argument that this is not a coalition? How can you show or prove that Democratic Party youth organizations or chapters are being like coerced into this by someone? It makes me feel very uncomfortable, to be honest, and kind of sad that this is such a obvious thing for him. And what is this method? What is this thing they're doing? They're able to take over people who don't want to build a coalition, supposedly. And also that this part on the screen right now, take real concerns about healthcare, housing, police misconduct. They don't take them. They had them to begin with. Liberals recently took those subjects because they see they're unavoidable and it's anti-democratic and politically suicidal to ignore those demands. But it's not like far left took them now. Far left push liberals, push moderate Democrats into even caring about those things at all.
Using police misconduct and use them to sell what is actually an authoritarian worldview. Now, there are things in DSA, for example, Democratic Socialists of America, that are good and that I agree with. But there's also some stuff in there that I think doesn't make any sense. I saw their new platform promises a country where you have no debt, you pay no rent, no mortgage.
This is very reasonable. There were countries for decades had no concept of mortgage. What I always said, if I was able to teleport myself, go in time to year 19, let's say 85, with the average Polish mortgage contract, I would be able to destroy the solidarity movement. If people had any awareness of how housing looks like under capitalism, they would think twice and 3 times and 5 times and so on. This is my favorite anecdote. I'm sure I'll repeat myself 50,000 times on my streams about this, but this is what my own mother told me a couple months ago when she recalled her economy class in university. So she studied in the 80s, mid-80s, communist Poland, Lublin, university in Lublin, and they were learning economy. And she recalled the lesson classes when the communist professor, kind of like old dude, tried to scare them, tried to kind of make a huge impression, and was saying, under capitalism, people are so exploited. Sometimes they have to pay even 30% of their income just on housing, on rent or mortgage. As a horror story, this was presented, and my mom, with her friends, were laughing at this, were ridiculing this. They thought it's lies, it is communist propaganda, negative about capitalism, to make them hate capitalism, because they were sure, they were fully convinced by American propaganda that was broadly available, that under capitalism, any working person just has like very cheap, like barely noticeable as an expense, housing, right? That's obvious. That's how the system works. So yeah, no rent, no mortgage, or like no rent in the Soviet Union or the GDR. It's like 3% of your income. This is what they mean. Yeah, you have to pay some like for utilities, but there's like no rent, no mortgage. If you pay a bit for utilities, it is not rent for any landlord. It is not mortgage to any bank. I see no reason for Americans to be in the type of debt they're in, because you have the most inhumane banking system I've heard of. Most immoral people work there. Most of American debt should be erased, or college debt or medical debt. I don't know why David Pakman believes it's impossible. What is actually impossible is sustain what's happening now. So either you fundamentally change the system, or we'll have a different type of collapse that will be much more horrible for minorities, for regular Americans, for all workers, for personally David Pakman. I wish there was some different premise there and a tiny bit more curiosity about what those things mean in detail, because so far nothing he mentioned as a problem is actually a problem or irresponsible policy or impossible policy. Not at all. Let's see what else.
You receive publicly funded housing, publicly funded retirement, food.
Yes, retirements, absolutely. This is most wonderful German invention, and it's from 70s of 19th century. If then Second German Empire establishing was able to afford retirements for workers, how is it impossible now for the United States of America? You can have retirement system, absolutely possible. Food, it doesn't need to be like really distributed food. Like if someone can't afford food, they will have it distributed. But what it means is that it is a cost you don't notice. It is such an available thing, you barely notice the cost. Education, obviously free in Europe, as everyone knows. Energy, I mentioned utilities, should be much, much, much less expensive. and green and not overused for AI. Medicine, already in many countries, have close to free transportation. Free transportation is just a great investment. The cost of good transportation, good logistics system in your country is tiny comparing to how it develops the society. I don't know can someone help me, which out of those points is so outrageous or impossible? For me, none so far.
Education, energy, medicine, transportation. And it sounds incredible because it is incredible. How would they create it? Government ownership of the largest corporations and of entire industries, universal rent control, abolishing police and prisons, and abolishing...
Defunding police doesn't mean abolishing police. Defunding police means not funding it as a gigantic army, spending resources differently and limiting resources for unproductive policing, right? The replacing or abolishing Senate in the US context, once again, something that makes sense because Senate is rigging American democracy, it's disproportionate in the land votes in the Senate, and it's increasingly unproductive. A third of senators are almost in palliative care. It's really nothing horrible about that. I think they could propose lottery Senate and lottery government, which is my pet peeve and my favorite subject and favorite political idea ever. That's what I would prefer. But I'm not American. It's not up for me to decide what's best there. And these are sensible ideas. Replacing your political system is the only way to go. One of just a couple of things that have any chance to unite Americans is the simple idea of dissolving current parliament and Senate and organizing new elections without Democratic Republican Party and with current professional politicians not involved in those elections, people's elections. This is the only way forward. I don't even know how. You barely have elections left. I think there is some type of... This is my personal feeling and idea. I may be wrong here. But I feel like David Pakman is one of those people who believe in adults. Who believe that there are adults somewhere that will finally wake up, finally will come and bring things back to order. There are no more adults than us. And we just need to bring this order or change this order now, because he's talking about endangered elections a lot, but he's not acting or building narrative as if he was actually aware of the level of danger. This is the only way forward. The only way forward.
The Senate and replacing our political system. Some of these
Americans
ideas
hate
are
this whole political
reasonable
system.
to a degree. For example, I support universal health care, and I've talked about 4 or 5 ways that we could get to it. I want affordable housing, and I've done a dozen interviews with housing experts on what would and wouldn't work to get us there. I support progressive taxation. We need to collect more taxes from the very rich. Voting rights have been hurt in this country. We need police reform.
Yes.
So there's elements of this that are great, and any social democrat like me will tell you we got to do that. But you bundle it together, and this fantasy in which capitalism, private industry, and major parts of the government simply disappear.
This is not fantasy. This is what something already done to you. Someone just came a year ago and dismantled part of your government. They do not exist. There are gigantic parts of US federal government that existed 2, 4, 5, maybe 7 years ago do not exist right now. It is possible. Capitalism, in any appealing form it was ever proposed or promised, never existed, and for sure doesn't exist right now. Someone did take it away. It was the most obvious fundamental thing about capitalism, that for it to work, you need to avoid monopolies, oligopolies, and it's basing on fair competition between economic actors. None of this is true. I would argue this was never true. For sure, it's not true right now. It will never be true again. Capitalism in a form anyone ever wanted it does not exist. Does not exist. So dismantling it was possible in this way. Now we need to dismantle techno-fascist feudalism or something like that. And you can change so many things in a capitalist system that it won't be capitalist system anymore. You don't have to have it never in history happened that some change in the system happened with a precise particular plan for every single step on the way of building new system from scratch. This is not also what left is arguing for. You can, without deleting everything, you can implement couple huge, groundbreaking changes to capitalism that it stops being capitalism, just as an outcome of those changes. This type of defeatism worries me because I'm very, very worried that people like David Pechman and his viewership will be those who will be fooled by Vance. That Vance will be the next president and will be able to convince things are fine. It will be good or are better than they were under Trump. None of this is true. But this is the most susceptible group. Moderate Democrats, in theory, left-leaning liberals. Historically, whenever workers organize, they support fascism, and those countless friends he's talking about, probably many of those people, if they'll have a choice to vote Mamdani or J.D. Vance, will vote J.D. Vance. And this is a very important question. If you want to be responsible for this, co-responsible for this, right? David has a huge following and huge influence on people. Will he lead them towards actual improvement or J.D. Vance pretending that there's an improvement?
Most Americans don't want that. Most Americans understand that there is...
This is not necessarily true. Most Americans don't want that. If you start fundamentally dismantling political system, it looks like, from what I know in studies, looks like most Americans are in a way politically homeless. There is a huge part that just disengages because they hate both parties so much. And people who support existing parties usually support them despite so many things, not for so many things that they hope for, right? It's just like lesser evil each time. So once again, if you ask Americans about any of those things he mentioned himself, like housing, Medicare, or just healthcare system, all of this is supported. And the attitude of we need to tear things apart, and politically, I mean, like in political class, and change the system fundamentally. This is broadly supported view, and I think David should recognize with the whole experience he has that Trump's existence and presidency itself is the ultimate evidence that this radical change is what people do want, what most Americans do want. This was like the definition of protest vote, right?
There's no way that you could impose that without extraordinary authoritarianism. My one hesitation about confronting this now, and why I went back and forth, is the midterms. Publicly exposing the rot could make moderate voters think the entire Democratic Party has been infected. But I don't...
How can you call this a rot? Even if you don't agree with those people, even if their goals seem to be far-reaching, of course they're willing to compromise if you talk to them. And calling this a rot, you're already, I don't think this is being done purposefully here, but unfortunately he's engaging in this actually far right language about far left, that this is a danger, rot, and these are people actually listening the closest to what workers yearn for lack of a better phrase.
I think silence is really going to hide it. I saw a crazy thing from the weekend where there was a college Democrats convention, which I was actually invited to participate in, and I couldn't make it. Hassan Piker was dressed like Mao.
This is something that is... First, he was not. This is just Chinese, and I think not like all Chinese, like regionally Chinese type of suit. And second thing, if anything, this was just cringe. Maybe this was a bit of cringe. Put tape on your mouth and sing a song. Maybe one day I'll consider that. So this was not Mao's suit. And to me, the suit, I don't mind it. It was fine. It was okay. The only thing, if I was forced to criticize it in a way, to me it had a tiny bit of this vibe of like Nancy Pelosi wearing this Native American feather hat or something, like a bit of a cultural appropriation or something tiny bit like that, but nothing like really to be upset about. And this fear-mongering, honestly, it's how can this be a focus? Very, very disappointing.
And I guess Destiny tried to show up and he was banned from entering allegedly because
everything's so upside down here. Everything's so upside down. Destiny is a person that endorsed the main American neo-Nazi to the mainstream. He's proud, he's constantly reminding that he introduced Nick Fuentes to broader audience. This is like, as a person with any following and viewership, one of the most morally irresponsible, like horrible influences imaginable. Like casually saying, "Oh, he couldn't be here or there." How can you want to have a Nick Fuentes promoter on any of your events at the same time being upset about Chinese food? I'm just discouraged, honestly. I'm discouraged. Mao dressed Piker, didn't want him there. I don't follow much and those streamer fights, but from what I know, very long time, Destiny is trying to encourage someone to kill Hassan. Honestly, Hassan, I believe, is a dead man on leave. I hope he'll be fine, but he's a huge target. So how is this comparable? How is this comparable? Oh my god. Sad.
the Mao-dressed Piker didn't want him there. Republicans are going to put these clips everywhere. Like, people seem crazy when they see this stuff. And they are going to take abolish the police.
This is a bold assumption that Americans in majority or broadly know who Mao was, know how he looked, know what he wore. I would bet 80% people having this shown to them will say a kind of weird suit, and that's it. That's like the only conclusion you can have.
And abolish borders and abolish prisons and play them on a loop for 6 months. If I were an average voter with no knowledge of these online personalities, which most of these people are. Most people don't follow this sort of thing. They're busy living their lives and working and doing all this stuff.
They don't obsess about Mao.
If I were an average voter with no knowledge of these online personalities, I would find these images and a lot of this stuff very alarming.
I understand the sentiment. I strongly believe it's incorrect. People who don't care about this stuff will not notice or recognize the suit for sure. But this was a decent speech. They may listen a bit of the speech. This is actually good biting to showing Fox, not showing Fox, Fox showing to their viewers your message to bite them with a suit. I appreciate the idea. I don't mind criticism, but the level on which David Pakman here is appalled, devastated, and shocked is a bad sign. Is a bad sign for how moderates will be voting this November. There will be no voting, almost for sure. But if there will be any voting.
So as I said last week, and so many of you agreed with me, Democrats must act now and intelligently. The centrists don't really do anything, make very milquetoast fringe suggestions that you don't even really push for.
Yes, because what are they supposed to do? There is what he's calling this far left, democratic socialists part of Democratic Party, and they have a plan, they have a message, they have a diagnosis of a situation and solutions for the situation. What moderate Democrat is supposed to do? Just shout at them about Mao, do whatever David here is doing, just by a centrist Democrat? This is actually discouraging a regular voter. What are they talking about? Mao suits? What is this? Like, why is this a subject? I really, even though I politically feel I'm not somehow different, I appreciate David Pakman, and I really, really hoped, and I still hope, he'll be one of those forces pushing center towards left, but someone needs to, I think, explain socialism and like communism history to him a bit more. And I'm not saying, this is any suggestion of lack of education, this is just how, very biased way in which those subjects are presented in the US and in the West, broadly speaking. And what is he expecting? This is why progressives or far left are not moderate. Not because they hate someone, they just want to call themselves, I'm far left. No, because moderate, center left has no plan, has no coherent ideological message, is misdiagnosing the situation, is constantly rejecting possible good solutions. So I'm wondering what he's expecting those moderate Democrats to do. Are they supposed to go and say, yes, we support this housing and Medicare and this and that, but not Mao suit? For a regular voter, this is what are they doing? Why are they fighting? They have this new interesting message. They can go forward. Why is this dude talking about suit, right? Like, the intuition, I believe, is wrong here.
Not working, okay? This other thing of like end everything, it's a sort of destructive accelerationism, that's also not gonna.
This is not destructive accelerationism. This is a pure appreciation of destruction that is now happening. It is a slow motion. Political life is most of the time slow motion, but it is taking place. So you can take the steering wheel and try to direct it into something, some positive rebuilding, because now fascists are driving. Fascists are conducting actually revolution, right? And you can only take it over or comply. If there is any possible message moderates can produce now as a positive confrontation or productive confrontation with socialists. I would like to see it. I can't really imagine it. I can't see it for now.
Work. So I think that what we need here are no apologetics for dictatorship, no apologetics for authoritarianism, no harassment, no anti-Semitism.
There is no harassment done by far left. Far left is being constantly harassed and targeted by the government. Trump is very openly, Rubio are very openly threatening them with jail, harassing them. I see no left committing harassment. Anti-Semitism is a separate subject, and I think there is like a huge misunderstanding around this between different parts of Democratic Party. Once again, I don't think Hassan is like an anti-Semite, and I unfortunately think that he unintentionally at some point leaned towards some anti-Semitic narratives. I think he has this kind of internalized anti-Semitism that's very hard not to have when you are not raised Jewish. But I don't think he's an anti-Semite. Of course, there should be some, conversation about what the base is doing with anti-Israel message, because I constantly see Hassan's followers and far left creators' followers who between each other talk about those creators. Oh yeah, they say the problem is Israel because they can't say out loud it's the Jews. So they kind of accept not openly anti-Semitic message as a dog whistling, even if dog whistling was not the intention. So this is the only thing I could agree is danger, but this is resolvable. This is a misunderstanding and lack of communication and not deliberate anti-Semitism. And there is no moral panicking your way out of it. David Pakman wants to this is kind of a moral or like pragmatic panic, something like this. But this won't work. This won't work. At this point, you can either help a successful and organized part of Democratic Party, or you can help J.D. Vance and Peter Thiel.
No allowing online factions to decide which liberals may enter the room. What would I even have been allowed at that college Democrats thing?
Of course. Why wouldn't you? Did you send your followers to kill Hassan? He literally has like a court case. This is, I believe, a restraining order. This is not just, his bad mood or good mood or whatever. It's a serious issue. It's a serious matter. And it's unnecessary. He can reach out to Hassan. For sure, he talked to Hassan and asked, am I welcome in your circle? And they should just have a conversation.
Invited me months ago. I don't know. I mean, I couldn't go, so we didn't find out. So we just need normal people to participate, join local committees, attend conventions, get involved with state parties, and let's turn the DNC into something that works. Many reasonable people doing a little can defeat both the centrist do-nothings and the hardcore extremists who would get nothing done.
It is upsetting and it's unfair because they are getting things done. They are getting people elected. They are getting better and better poll outcomes. How can you say they get nothing done? I don't think it's fair. I think you're only supporting conservative narrative and talking about democracy, about being against authoritarianism. Will David Pakman take this step back and will see that he may be accidentally creating some authoritarian narrative, because it looks like so far, in primaries so far, either very far left or at least progressive part of Democratic Party is more appealing to voters in this cycle. So when all primaries are done, and we will see what Democratic Party's base want to vote for in November. If it will turn out it's not mostly moderates, will David Pacman be able to admit, I was wrong, this is something our voters do want, and I will now, instead of supporting conservatives and copying their language, their talking points, will I vote blue no matter who, as progressives were always told they have to do. I think David is open-minded enough guy to still rethink his position, but how convinced he is now, how radical he's about this right now, is a very bad sign. It's a very worrying sign.
Republicans believed they were going to control the extremists. They were like, we got these people under control. The extremists took over the party. Democrats can still prevent that outcome.
These are not, once again, I'm repeating myself, zero analogy, zero similarity. People who want to deport, harm, starve, make people sick. How can this be compared with a general effort to make it as cheap or free as possible? Of course, it won't be immediately all free. And of course, socialists know this, but this is how they're setting the direction. And this is a very good direction. I don't know what else can save you right now.
But we've got to get them to get things under control right now. I've said before, I've never been a Democrat. I don't care about the Democratic Party. Beyond...
You've never been a Democrat? You're an independent? That's fine. But then why are you speaking so strongly on behalf of Democrats?
Who offers the better candidates, and usually it's Democrats over Republicans. But we've got to make sure.
Oh no, there was usually there. Guys, this is bad. There was usually Democrats. Listen.
Candidates, and usually it's Democrats over Republicans.
Usually opens the path I'm most scared of. Donald Trump will die soon. J.D. Vance will take presidency, and he already is prepared to strategically take a step back from Trump. The moment Trump's dead, even still warm, J.D. Vance goes out there and says something, maybe suggesting about Epstein files, maybe about war in Iran, that was a bad idea, that we need to end some chapter. I don't think he'll shit on Trump, that this was a bad president, I was pretending. No. He will, in some well thought through, well crafted way, will say that this was a leader appropriate for the moment, for political momentum. But now the country needs to reunite. We need a bit of more moderate attitude. We need some decorum back. And this is the unusually. He says usually it's Democrats. I don't know if this will be personally David Pacman, but for sure people following David Pacman, similar to his mindset, are in a huge danger of believing this. Maybe not voting for J.D. Vance. I don't think they'll have to vote or not because Trump is dying. But treat him differently than Trump and together go against far left with J.D. Vance, with fascists. J.D. Vance's sponsor, Peter Thiel, is from a proud Nazi family, the most prominent neo-Nazi on the planet right now. It is very worrying because when he's at the stage the Republican Party is right now, in the shape it is right now, saying usually it's Democrats, keeping this door even tiny bit open. I'm very, very worried about this forecast here.
But we've got to make sure that we don't allow that party, if it is the vessel, at least for now, to something better than what Republicans are offering, to be hijacked.
People
This
are
is about,
voting.
let's include, but not allow any extreme faction to take over.
What does it mean to include? You can welcome them, but they have to follow your version of democratic or left policies. You just said you're not a Democrat. Registered Democrats so far are very broadly supporting this. I think there is some inconsistency or contradiction there. That supposedly it's all about democracy against authoritarian politics, but also completely ignoring the fact that this is what Democrat voters seem to be into at the moment. If you have a better idea, show me the better idea. But I didn't see it clearly. We'll see what will happen. We'll see what will happen. But this is a worrying trend. This is why I say Hassan is a dead man on leave. Because there is a timeline in which fascists, J.D. Vance type, and liberals, David Pacman's type, create a coalition against socialism and communism. And this is the fucking end for beautiful United States of America. So, what is the time? What is the time? What is the time? Soon will be 2 p.m. Not 2 p.m., 2 a.m. actually where I am. So, should I watch? Because there is something I really want to watch. It looks very, very good. But it's an hour and a half, and I literally don't know if I'm able to do this today. I should have started earlier. I wish I started earlier. And there will be Peter Thiel. It will be very good. It will be very good. I think it's too long for today because I may stop it a lot. But let's watch something else before I'll go. I had something. Oh, this malaria video. This was interesting thing where this guy, Justin Portela, he has, you see, under 10k subs. Niche content. He has one video, this one, and apparently he knows what he's doing because production level is very good. I watched a little bit, like 5 minutes or so, and I thought, wow, that's like really, really well made and really ideologically coherent. So let's support small creators. I'll subscribe officially. And I don't want to like before watching. But let's watch that.
History has been decided by men.
Is it refreshing? Forgive my laptop.
By men in
dying.
closed door meetings. And chances are you can already see it in your head, right? The whiskey, the cigars, the big suit. But I want to talk to you about another meeting I've been obsessing over.
And I've been obsessing because almost nobody has heard of this meeting. It didn't get a book. It didn't get a Senate hearing. It didn't get a Christopher Nolan movie. But way more people died in the wake of this meeting than after the Manhattan Project.
I want to look at mention things. Estimated deaths by cause.
Up to 2.
World War I, COVID, the Holocaust. Excuse me, where is World War II? should be second place, above World War One. They just took Holocaust itself. What's the logic? American car accidents all time. Vietnam War, all deaths. Okay.
100 times more.
And this meeting doesn't even have its own Wikipedia page. The meeting I'm talking about was the 8th World Health Assembly. 150 delegates from almost every major country came together to do something monumental: eradicate malaria. Okay, now I get it. Malaria is not the sexiest thing to talk about. The YouTube algorithm would much prefer if I were reviewing some new iPhone right now. And
malaria.
hell, maybe you would too. But you wouldn't be alone. See, in 1955, malaria wasn't that sexy either. This entire meeting only got a tiny corner in the back pages of the New York Times, sandwiched between two menswear ads. But it's hard to understate just how insanely audacious this idea was. I mean, first of all, no one had ever eradicated a disease before. And second, malaria was then and still is arguably the deadliest thing ever. I mean, not the deadliest disease, the deadliest thing. According to one estimate, malaria has killed 5% of all people who have ever lived. Malaria and the mosquitoes that carried the parasite used to kill people in almost every single country in the world.
Forgive me, I need to communicate with words with my roommate. Okay, I'm back. Forgive me. I may get some food. I'm so hungry. Maybe I'll be donated some food.
Whether you lived in America or Sweden or England, if you were born before this meeting, malaria might have killed you too. But you're here. Malaria didn't kill you, and that's in no small part because of these 150 men. With billions of dollars, military-grade insecticides, and the world's greatest scientists, they decimated malaria in almost every single place in the world. Almost every single place. See, when these guys got together to save the world, they didn't decide to save the whole world. See, they decided to save a slightly different world. A world that didn't include Africa south of the Sahara Desert.
Surprising.
Question one, why'd they call this meeting in the first place? I mean, nobody had ever eradicated a disease before, so what made these guys so confident they could start with the worst one? Answer, because they learned to destroy it. Question two, how do you destroy the deadliest thing in human history? Same way you destroy anything. US military.
Fuck yeah.
Malaria used to be a huge problem in America, especially down south.
The survival rates of children born in South Carolina were 16%.
I remember this. I was supposed to fact check it. I think I'll fact check it in the background now because I can't comprehend this.
You had a 16% chance of living to 14. That's crazy.
That's part of the reason Americans kidnapped and enslaved so many African people. White farmers didn't want to work the mosquito-filled fields, so they enslaved human beings to do it for them.
Originally, colonial powers are enslaving indigenous peoples in the Americas to use as slave labor, but very quickly we lose 95% of indigenous peoples in the Americas. So then indentured servants are brought over as well from Europe to work. Well, they're suffering the malaria and yellow fever burdens as well. African people seem to be able to withstand the yellow fever and malaria onslaught better.
If you look at a map of the US slave trade, then you look at a map of American malaria, you'll see pretty clearly they're the same map. Places that had more malaria had a much higher demand for slave labor. So the story of American malaria was a lot like the story of malaria everywhere else. It killed a lot of people, but it mostly killed poor people. It killed slaves, it killed laborers and low-income families in the rural South. By the early 1900s, there had been a few big malaria discoveries, but they hadn't helped much. Scientists had learned that malaria was a parasite, for instance. They'd also learned that malaria was carried.
The numbers I'm seeing are a bit different. That 35% was surviving, which is also dramatically low, but I'm not sure where is this number from. However, the dude is a specialist, so I'm assuming he has some source for it. I don't know.
By mosquito bites. But know thy enemy only goes so far if you have no idea how to kill thine enemy. So despite all of these discoveries, malaria was still one of the leading causes of death in America until the war. When the Americans fought the Japanese in the Pacific, they were winning on the battlefield but getting slaughtered by the mosquitoes.
When 30, 40, or 50 men out of 100 are knocked flat on their backs by malaria, the military situation is far worse than snafu.
If a soldier was lucky, malaria was just 2 weeks of the worst flu he'd ever had.
It starts with feeling drained, like extreme tiredness. After that, fever. High fever follows.
But the malaria parasite literally eats through your red blood cells. That's how it works. At any point, that flu could suddenly turn deadly. The same soldier who was just coughing and watching cartoons could suddenly go into malaria shock. His blood pressure would tank and his circulatory system would just completely collapse. There were a million other ways he could die of malaria. He could run out of iron, his lungs could fill with water, or his spleen could just suddenly burst.
General MacArthur's quote, "This is going to be a very long war. For every division I have fighting, I have one on leave and one in the hospital with malaria."
So the military needed a solution, and they needed it desperately. And to find that solution, they had to find the greatest mind in malaria. Fred Soper was a tall, corn-fed Kansas boy, a little salt mine in town, about an hour north of Wichita. Before Soper, everyone thought that fighting malaria was about fighting the parasite inside of the body. Medications, like quinine. Fred Soper thought that was all boring nerd shit. He knew that the best way to fight malaria was not to fight parasites. It was to fight mosquitoes. So Fred Soper became the best goddamn mosquito killer there'd ever been. See, Soper had cut his teeth down in Brazil, where he basically wrote the book on killing mosquitoes. They'd called him into Rio after one of the most dangerous mosquito species had accidentally found its way into Brazil. Soper carved the country's entire northeast region into a grid, where he sent troops town to town, door to door, clearing mosquitoes. He made them check every cistern, climb along every roof gutter. After they check a house, he'd make them go back later and check it again. That's
makes completely no sense, because they for mosquitoes procreate doesn't sound right, but they make babies in ponds and standing water containers, let's say. So like a random spring walls, you just hope one mosquito will be there. I don't understand. Sorry, forgive me. Hitting my mic again. I'm sorry. I'll do something with this next time. I have a very bad arm for my mic.
It's the kind of guy Fred Soper was. So it was no surprise that the military loved him. But the military knew that Soper's ideas weren't nearly enough on their own. The military didn't have time to go door to door killing bugs. I mean, remember, this was going on at the same time as the Manhattan Project. So the American military wasn't exactly thinking small. They wanted the atomic bomb but for mosquitoes.
For everything, right?
This is the story of a miraculous white powder that is helping to win the war. Its name is dichlorodiphenyl trichloroethane.
DDT comes out of the malaria project in the United States that was given the same scope and secrecy as the Manhattan Project.
Once they knew it worked, the US government went to chemical factories around the country. They told them to stop making whatever the hell it was they were making and start making DDT. So by the early 40s, the US had their plan. They had Fred Soper's playbook for killing mosquitoes and the world's best artillery to do it in DDT. So they boarded up planes with sprayers, scientists, and as much of DDT as they could fit and sent it all off to the Pacific. Turned out to be a great fucking plan. By 1945, they'd basically beaten malaria in the Pacific theater. Disease rates fell 70% in Japan, 83% in Burma. So it wasn't surprising when the war very quickly started to
What was this? Was like pumping this powder under someone's shirt? Okay.
turn in America's favor. So back home, the rest of the government started getting excited too. I mean, if they could clear malaria from military bases in the middle of the Pacific Ocean, why the hell couldn't they clear it in America? So that's what they did. They went back home and followed the same playbook. They took Fred Soper's best students and gave them as much DDT as money could buy. And in just a few years, the US government sprayed 6.5 million homes, drained millions of acres of swamp, and completely eradicated malaria
This
in
is
the
your
country.
target.
That was the first time any country had eradicated malaria or any disease on that kind of scale. I mean, in a place where it had been killing tens of thousands of people. In the war against malaria and disease, this was the first sign that we could do the impossible. Everyone was incredibly excited. Could you imagine being the Americans? Could you imagine being Fred Soper? You just defeated the deadliest thing in human history. You must feel like God. It was no surprise then that Fred Soper wanted to go bigger. His ambitions were way beyond America. He wanted to eradicate malaria in every corner of the world, Africa, Asia, South America. I mean, he was ready to kill mosquitoes in the North Pole if he could find them. So what does a little Kansas boy do? He starts playing politics, specifically in the World Health Organization.
Playing politics. Looking for a political solution? Why is it framed negatively? We need politics, guys.
When the previous World Health Organization Director General stepped down, Soper helped install a new Director General, a Brazilian named Marcelino Candau, who's much more sympathetic to Soper's mission to eradicate malaria.
People are enthusiastic. You think of the national character in the 50s, like, we can do anything. You know, build the tallest building, make the biggest bridges, build the world's largest road network.
So in 1955, when the World Health Organization met for their annual meeting in Mexico City, the schedule was Fred Soper's. The subject was his dream, a global crusade against malaria. They called it the Global Malaria Eradication Program. I mean, everyone was fired up. All the delegates in their best summer suits, the Mexico City sun. I mean, they were about to save the goddamn world. But there was a hiccup. Should Africa be included in the plan? Nominally, they were asking a question about difficulty. Would it be possible to eradicate malaria in Africa? Or would it be too large and too low to get all the DDT sprayers there?
Just Africa.
But these weren't the only questions they were asking. There was subtext there. Africa had always had this fraught and lethal relationship with the Western world. And the center of that relationship had...
Weird way to put it. Lethal relationship. It's... I wouldn't say it's so mutual, the lethalness.
Always been malaria. It started like this. In the 1400s, Europeans desperately wanted to get into Africa. They wanted to steal resources, land, people. But malaria was like this force field, keeping Europeans out of the interior. Every single time Europe tried to send a mission into Africa, they got beaten back by the continent's particularly lethal strain of malaria. The Tucky Congo expedition, for example, lost 75% of its men.
We have one of our main national novels in Poland, W pustyni I w puszczy, which can be translated like on a desert and in the jungle, which is of course extremely colonial turbo white book, but the main plot is getting malaria in Africa and almost dying.
The Mungo Park Party lost 2/3. When the British tried to station soldiers in Sierra Leone, half of them were dead by the end of the year. So for years, Europeans exclusively operated from Africa's coast. The slave trade, for example, had to be operated from the shoreline.
Europeans can't go into the interior and capture slaves because they just die.
This was the paradox. Inside of Africa, malaria was this incredibly deadly force, but it was also keeping this other extremely deadly force, Europeans, out of the continent.
Arguably deadlier.
Until the 1870s.
Imagine you have a choice between Europeans or malaria. Illusion of choice, honestly.
That's when Europe started mass producing this bitter white powder called quinine. At the time, quinine was the only thing that could keep you from getting malaria. The story of how they started mass producing quinine is its own epic about alpacas and the Bolivian police, but for now, just know that quinine used to be too expensive for Europeans to launch any real assault inside Africa. But then they found a new, better version of the quinine tree, started mass producing it, and then the price of quinine fell 94%. Then they had all the quinine they needed. So faster than anyone knew what was happening, European ships were loaded up with quinine, and they were suddenly slaughtering their way through the interior. Countless people died from European guns. The Belgians alone killed as many as 10 million people.
This is why I felt this may be a good video, and I'm happy we're watching it. Because, of course, I knew about Belgian Congo, hands cut as a punishment for not bringing enough rubber. And all this. However, I never made this connection that actually the cure for malaria, something we're very happy about, enable actually the worst crimes in Congo. That's so perverse and horrible. God.
In the Congo. That was half the country's population. And as far as malaria goes, Europeans didn't just find a continent full of malaria. In some cases, they created the malaria epidemics. Take Swaziland, for instance. Before the British arrived, Swazis typically lived at higher altitudes where mosquitoes were less common. That's how they kept themselves safe from malaria. But the British forcibly moved Swazi people from the highlands into the lowlands where they made them farm. This turned malaria from a seasonal annoyance to a non-stop epidemic. I mean, for me, this is the crazy irony. The Europeans got a cure for malaria, quinine, and then they used that cure to make malaria much, much worse for other people. And then in Mexico City, the rich countries were deciding Africa's fate again. So when they asked, should Africa be included in the plan, they were asking whether they should invest money to save the people they just conquered and murdered. A lot of rich countries like England and America argue that it would be too difficult to eradicate malaria in Africa.
Sure.
And on this specific...
Imagine literally believing it's easier to eradicate people than the disease that kills them.
Point, they weren't completely wrong. Eradicating malaria in Africa would have been difficult, I'll grant you that. Africa was much larger and much more rural than somewhere like the southern US. But there were a lot of reasons to believe it was possible. DDT, for example, had already shown really good success in certain African countries like Mauritius. Now, Mauritius is an island, which made it easier, but it had the same type of mosquitoes and a similar topography as other parts of Africa, and DDT spraying had basically eradicated malaria there. And besides, wasn't the whole point of this meeting to do a difficult thing? The few African delegates that were in Mexico City tried to fight back, but it didn't matter. In the end, they called a vote on whether...
One more perverse detail, why did they even invite African delegations then? Of course they should, and they should respect them, but imagine you're inviting delegations for a conversation, how and where will we eradicate malaria, and make them listen to all of you white assholes agreeing that you won't do it there. Just don't invite them at all. What is this idea?
Africa should be included in the plan, and the rich countries just overwhelmed the poor countries. So when everyone walked out of Mexico City, the entire world had all the funding they needed to fight malaria.
except for
Imagine how demonic those politicians are. They look those people in the eyes. They look those African delegations in the eyes and say no, and then leave.
for Africa. Africa was left to die. A lot of people died. Hundreds of thousands of African people died of malaria in the year after the Mexico City conference, and most of them were children. Hundreds of thousands more died the year after that, and the year after that, and the year after that. But then the tides started to change. It started with a sexy young senator named JFK.
That's sexy.
In the Senate, JFK became known as one of the most powerful advocates for poor people and poor nations. He tried raising the minimum wage. He tried getting the French out of Vietnam. And a few years after that Mexico...
Well, I shouldn't say this. Maybe not the sexiest ever, but this would be amazing president. There would be no Cold War, probably, if he wasn't murdered by CIA.
City meeting, he pushed forward $100 million of new funding for the malaria eradication effort, just about $1 billion today. And this new funding was one of the many reasons why the US and the World Health Organization were able to start ramping up pilot programs in Africa. There were at least 24 well-funded campaigns in 21 different African countries. And for the most part, they worked miraculously well. Don't get me wrong, I mean, there were plenty of difficulties. It can be hard to get sprayers to rural places, and there were 1,000 implementation issues. But on the grand scale, almost everywhere the DDT sprayer showed up, malaria rates started plummeting. Zanzibar and Swaziland, for example, got their case counts down to basically zero. So in 1960, the world was looking bright. We had proven that we could beat or at least control malaria in every part of the world. And then we all lived happily ever after. Right?
No.
Not everyone was so excited about helping Africa. Specifically, a guy down in Louisiana, a congressman named Otto Passman. Passman chaired the House Subcommittee on Foreign Aid, and despite his job title, he hated foreign aid.
I know racism exists everywhere, and I know those demons are out there, but I am still often stunned by this time when you kind of, with head held high, were spending your whole energy, time, and life taking food away from people, taking medication away from people, like openly.
Now, I am not saying that Otto Passman was a bad guy. I am
Wasn't
not saying
he?
that. But he was a hardline segregationist. He did
Just say he was a bad guy, a hardline segregationist. I'm sorry.
get successfully sued for sexual discrimination, and he was later accused of taking bribes from a South Korean businessman. Also, he married his secretary right after his wife died, but I am not saying that he was a bad guy. JFK and Otto Passman constantly fought over foreign aid, and they really came to blows in 1963. JFK proposed a budget that earmarked $4.9 billion for foreign aid, and importantly to our story, that budget included all of the funding necessary to renew the successful malaria programs
This
that
is
were
what they
going on
killed
in
him
Africa.
for?
But even though it wasn't that much money, Otto Passman did everything he could to stop the bill. And in response, JFK did everything he could to pass the bill. He even, and this is true, tried to take Otto Passman on a nighttime cruise down the Potomac River to convince him. But none of it worked. Some congressmen thought aid was frivolous. Others thought that it was stupid to send money to Africa when none of those countries were at risk of going communist. In the end, Otto Passman
One more evidence communism helps you. You won't get a penny from the United States. If there is a communist danger, maybe then we'll give you a crumbs of some charity.
took a massive bite out of the foreign aid budget Kennedy had asked for and cut more than a third of the funding for Africa. And with all this funding gone, all of those pilots, those shining programs that were actually controlling malaria in Africa, where the WHO was actually about to fulfill its promise for global malaria eradication, they fell apart. First, the US pulled millions of dollars in funding from the World Health Organization, and then the pilot programs in Africa started shutting down one by one by one. And of course,
our nation is bereaved. The whole world is poorer because of his loss.
And that became the world in Africa for the next 40 years. Countless people dying of a disease we knew how to prevent.
Once again, I did not know that. I didn't know it was already so low. I mean, malaria levels. And that they grew so recently. Again, I didn't know there was even this relief period.
Okay, so George W. Bush, talk about a duality, right? So on one hand, you have the Iraq War. 500,000 innocent civilians dead. If you trust other people, it's more like 1 million. On the other hand, you have this campaign in Africa. In 2005, Bush launched the President's Malaria Initiative, PMI.
As a compassionate nation, we are called to spread awareness about malaria.
It was this massive program to fight malaria in sub-Saharan Africa. And this was on top of PEPFAR, which he launched in 2003 to fight HIV/AIDS. Researchers at Imperial College London estimated that in its first 12 years, Bush's PMI saved around 940,000 lives, most of them kids under 5. That is almost 1 million people.
First time in a very long time, first time in years, someone presented me with a positive piece of information about George W. Bush. Hooray!
George W. Bush.
So I said, why don't we work together to eradicate malaria in parts of Africa?
And for all the Republican talk about how ineffective the government is, the PMI was insanely efficient. The whole program cost about $5 billion, which comes out to about $5,000 per life saved. Now bear with me on the math here, but charity evaluators like GiveWell, their whole job is figuring out the cheapest way to save a kid's life. They will tell you that the world's most effective charities right now can prevent a child from dying for about $4,000 or $5,000. That would make the PMI one of the best charities or one of the most effective uses of money ever. Now, why the hell did he do this? Seriously, why did George W. Bush spend so much money trying to save African children? I actually want you to guess. I think it'll be fun. So take 3 seconds. I'll wait. You come.
Something horrible is my guess. I became naively for a moment optimistic, but what can we come up with? Because there was some healthcare company or like big pharma company that wanted the contract for this medication, or Bill Gates. Bill Gates. Was it his company creating a vaccine? What was it?
Up with a guess. Okay, you got one? It's probably wrong. You read Roots. If you don't know, it's a book about a young Gambian kid named
Roots, the saga of an American family. Alex Haley. About a young Gambian kid. I'm unfamiliar with this piece of writing.
Kunta Kinte, who gets sold into American slavery. They made it into this big TV show. It was a really big deal at one point. But George W. Bush, and this is all according to his autobiography, he wrote this, he was so transfixed by the book that he went to the Gambia. And he was so transfixed by the Gambia that he started surrounding himself with other
evangelicals. Beautiful footage. I never saw Bush doing this type of stuff. Fantastic. That's fantastic. This is why culture matters. And this sounds like a obvious or trivial thing to say, but so many people in power were persuaded by a book, by a movie, by a poem, things like that. And it's a real problem when only extremely rich and privileged people create culture, because this can't convince anyone to anything good.
Evangelical Christians who deeply cared about Africa. The most notable one was a chief speechwriter named Michael Gerson, this incredibly religious conservative who said this line: "What definition of pro-life does not include saving millions of people from preventable disease and death?"
Impressive. Of course, I'll never be a conservative, but I miss conservatives like this, to be honest. I can't lie.
I mean, you cannot make this shit up. The PMI spent 20 years rolling out all these incredible and life-saving tools. Bed nets, for example. Really simple. If you sleep under a net, you can't get bit by a mosquito, and if you don't get bit by a mosquito, you can't get malaria. These nets cost about $2 each, and they can cut a village's malaria rate by about 50%.
Wow.
Then there are other tools, like seasonal malaria chemoprevention. It's a very fancy name for a very simple idea. You give kids under 5 an anti-malarial pill during the rainy season, which is when the mosquitoes are at their worst. And the pill, despite only costing around $6 per kid, can reduce a child's chance of dying by around 80%.
Every life matters to the American people. Every life is precious.
And they kept saving hundreds of thousands of lives.
He almost said Black Lives Matter. Not really, but he was that close.
Long after Bush left office, under Obama, under Biden, and even under the first Trump administration. But if you're...
What?
Under Obama, under Biden, and even under the first Trump...
What is happening here? This is Polish Prime Minister Donald Tusk. What is this picture? What is this picture? God. Wow. On the left, Trump's right, but our left. This is Donald Tusk. Right from him, Donald Trump. Here we have Trudeau, a bit of his back and profile. This is, I think, former Prime Minister of South Korea. Don't remember the name. And some African politicians. And he's shouting about something, and everyone around is trying to kind of contain him. I really hate Donald Tusk, this Polish Prime Minister. He's like one of the most horrible Polish politicians, and he's pretending to be a liberal who's actually Trump's dick rider. Just after Trump started the Doge, Tusk started organizing meetings with the most wealthy Polish businessmen, kind of pretending he's our Musk, and creating some evil anti-worker policies together.
Administration. But if you're picking up on the pattern here, or if you've been watching the news, you'll know that this success did not last.
It's absolutely obscene, dangerous, bad, very costly. I mean, virtually every investment made is a con job.
Last year, Trump paused the PMI completely. Then he proposed a new budget that cut the PMI in half.
You are for an uncomplicated malaria, it's becoming a severe malaria. And then after that, there is death.
A few weeks ago, he signed a new budget that seemed to restore the PMI's funding. A lot of people doubt they'll be able to do anything with the money without any USAID staff or infrastructure.
You know, it's not clear on the how. Yeah, you remember that you said as closed?
At the same time, the EU has also majorly pulled back its malaria funding.
It's actually the European countries that
Wow.
have cut.
Sorry, I almost spilled my drink. This is why I always say that US politics has fundamental influence on Europe, that European political decisions are kind of echo of American decisions. We don't talk about this, we don't know about this. We under impression that our politicians want to give some pushback to Trump, and then they do this. One more thing I had no fucking idea about.
Back by between 15 and 50%.
And at the same time, the world is doing less. The problem is getting much, much worse. Now, malaria cases are at their highest point in decades. And this is for a lot of reasons, like...
One more time, the chart.
Now, malaria cases are at their highest point in decades.
Nearing 300 million per year, I'm guessing.
And this is for a lot of reasons, like climate change, for example. Mosquitoes do better in warmer environments, so as the world is getting hotter, mosquitoes are carrying malaria into places that used to be too cold for the disease, like Nepal, for example. So it seems from all this research and from everyone that I've spoken to that we're at this incredible inflection point. We can either do nothing and watch this problem get much, much worse, or we could do something. I feel like the same thing always happens whenever I hear stories like this. Maybe it does for you, but it definitely does for me. The problems just feel so big that I just shut down, right? Like, okay, someone tells me that a child dies every minute from malaria, and that's just, it's the worst thing I've ever heard. Like, I want to go think about literally anything else, and so I do. I stop thinking about it. But malaria is a special kind of problem because we know exactly how to solve it. And a lot of problems aren't like this. I mean, Alzheimer's, for example, right? We have a lot of treatments to manage symptoms, but all we can do is just keep researching, keep funding trials, and hope for the best. I mean, we don't know how to solve it. Malaria isn't like that. We know how to prevent malaria. We know how to treat malaria. We know how to keep kids and pregnant women from dying of malaria. I mean, we have known all of this since 1955, and we have only gotten smarter in the years since then.
Malaria is preventable, is treatable.
We've got the tools, we just need the money.
Here's another way that malaria is special. By a lot of calculations, spending money to prevent people from dying of malaria is one of, if not the most cost-effective way to save a human life. But say you want to solve the whole problem, right? I mean, there's something really sexy about eradicating an entire disease. And that's the last piece of good news. Leading authorities agree that with enough money, we have the ability to completely eradicate malaria.
Sure, we can.
Okay, I will end with a little confession. This research process was not my first time hearing about malaria. I found out about it in high school, and it just always, from then,
surprisingly proud of himself. That's good. That's good you've been to high school, not homeschooled.
It seemed so crazy to me that a kid could die of some arcane disease just because he was born in the wrong place, right? And I was born in the right place. Like, I was born in New Jersey. And so so when I was 16, I was working the front desk at a massage parlor in New Jersey. I was making minimum wage, $10 an hour. And I'm not kidding, I was donating 10% of that money to buy malaria nets.
Wow.
So I guess I'll end with an invitation. I worked with a nonprofit called Giving What We Can to make a very simple webpage. First, it has a bunch of cool links to read more about malaria and also to fact check literally everything that I have said. And second, it includes a list of the most cost-effective charities evaluated by places like GiveWell, where you could contribute to ending this thing. I mean, most of the time, problems are like way too big or way too complicated or too far away, or they depend on like a million other people need to vote a certain way, or some president or senator needs to do something. But this one isn't like that at all. I mean, this problem has just been sitting there for decades, waiting for enough people to give a shit. Thank you for watching.
Thank you for making this video. It was really great. I actually really liked it. giving what we can. Nice. I love this guy already, and I hope he'll be making more videos. Let's give him a like. Let's see if he has more subscribers now, because I don't know if it's refreshed the number now. Above 10 already, okay, with one video. Beautiful, beautiful. We really like that for him. What to do? What to do? What to do now? I'm so hungry. I don't know why, but each time I start streaming, unless I have just eaten something, I'm immediately super hungry. Super hungry. And I'm actually super hungry right now. Wait a second. Just got water to drink. I would watch something more. I had some things. Wait a second. Say goodbye. We watched, I think, enough of this with Philip DeFranco. I started a bit earlier today than in last couple days. Maybe this is a low bar, but I'm a bit proud of myself. So I'll try to keep it going tomorrow. Tomorrow I have a stressful thing because our demonic evil corporate landlord is coming to see the apartment that we need to give back end of this month. And I will have very different space, much smaller, unfortunately. I'll have my posters still somewhere, and I'll try to organize some streaming space there, but it may not be easy. And it won't be that spacious as here, but still fine. So we need to clean the apartment for tomorrow, start packing. My website still isn't ready. I do it with Wix because supposedly it's good. It is terrifying to me how supposedly best platform to do this is extremely online to use, and it takes me ages. My suspicion is that it's like LinkedIn. Sorry for moving my camera. That if you pay them for paid plan, it becomes convenient and lovely, and as long as you're an unpaid user, it drives you crazy. So I'm unpaid user right now, that's why I'm being driven crazy. Did I watch this as the last thing? As my last thing today? About thrifting? Maybe I'll watch it. And somewhere in the middle, I hope I'll get food. I'll receive food, so forgive me eating if I'll be eating. But I'm super hungry. And for now, I'll just grab the water, and I'm actually interested in that, and it's not that late where I am, so maybe it will be 4 hours stream tonight. Wouldn't be bad, probably. So let's move the subtitle. This laptop is in deep suffering now. But I'm proud it keeps going. It is so weak that it doesn't even allow me to twitch vertically on stream. But it's good enough, I hope. I'm happy with it. Font size. Oh, this is the only way to choose it. Would be good. Let's choose them. Can it be higher? It can't be higher than this.
About thrifting. Anyone who's been watching my channel for a while now knows
Let's start from the beginning and let's make it a tiny bit more quiet because recorded a bit loud.
we need to have a serious conversation about thrifting. Anyone who's been watching my channel for a while now knows I'm a man of many interests, and that includes thrifting. I like scoring great deals, I love finding cool knickknacks, and I especially enjoy walking around small town America haggling with people while training my speech skill like it's some Elder Scrolls game. Take a look at this German cookbook I got from a flea market a few years ago. The seller was asking $2. You know what I got him?
Okay, I'm jealous already. Looks great. Looks great. I need to find it. It looks very good. Like Currywurst. Spätzle.
Down to $1.50 for a cookbook. That was the magic of thrifting. You can spend an afternoon digging through piles of absolute nonsense and somehow walk away with a cool jacket, a strange lamp, and a copy of Shrek 2 on DVD for like 15 bucks. But now, you want old jeans? $30. Lightly used shoes? Over 100. A copy of the 2008 film Don't Mess with the Zohan? $8. And that's not
the most trash dog shit movie ever fucking created, as you may guess.
including the immense disappointment that comes with watching that movie, which should lower the price. The point is, almost everywhere you go, secondhand prices have skyrocketed, the good stuff feels picked over, and it feels like thrifting is having a full-blown identity crisis. This over-financialization of junk has hollowed out the secondary market to the point it no longer feels like a place for low-income families, students, or just regular people.
What's happening? Oh, sorry.
Or just regular people. But why? Well, today that's what we are going to figure out. We're going to dive headfirst into the secondhand market, thrifting, antiquing, reselling, all of it. Why does Goodwill feel so different now? Why is a casserole dish suddenly a financial instrument? And most importantly, how did thrifting explode only to start feeling ruined? Let's get started. Roughly 1 in 5 Americans shop at thrift stores yearly, with 83% of Gen Z consumers.
Wait.
Roughly 1 in 5.
25,000 resale. Traditional thrift and donation is projected to account for less than a half total secondhand market. Okay, still strong. I thought vintage online and stuff like this is already much stronger.
Americans shop at thrift stores yearly, with 83% of Gen Z consumers either buying or wanting to buy secondhand items. Some point to nostalgia, some point to rising costs, some point to the internet, and some people point to the fact that a lot of the stuff made today simply isn't built the way older stuff was. Fairly speaking, it's probably all of those things at once, because thrifting, reselling, antiquing, and buying secondhand is more popular now than ever. And you can see it happening across almost every category. Clothing is probably the most visible example. Vintage Carhartt jackets resell for hundreds of dollars, which is kind of insane when you remember these were originally built as durable workwear. The same thing has happened with old Harley-Davidson tees, vintage Levi's, band shirts, and even beat-up college sweatshirts. Stuff that used to be tossed in a donation.
What was it? This
vintage
hoodie?
Levi's, band shirts, and even beat-up.
Discounted from under 3K to 700. crew neck from Springfield College. Dirty and worn AF. Nice.
College sweatshirts. Stuff that used to be tossed in a donation pile is now treated like curated fashion with a high price tag to match. And social media, specifically TikTok, has been one of the biggest accelerants of all of this. For years, creators have posted thrift hauls, styling tips, vintage finds, and the algorithm pretty much did the rest. Entire aesthetics like cottagecore, dark academia, and Y2K run straight through thrifting, turning secondhand fashion from something practical into something aspirational. At the same time, websites help turn that interest into an actual marketplace. Depop, which launched all the way back in 2011, started as a social shopping app for secondhand fashion, built to feel more like a feed than a traditional resale site. And it got so big that Etsy bought it in 2021 for about $1.6 billion. Poshmark, which also was founded in 2011, helped do something similar by turning resale into a social marketplace where people could buy, sell, and basically build their own little storefronts around personal style. ThredUp pushed the model in a different direction, framing secondhand as something cleaner, more convenient, and easier to scale online. With a combination of all these websites and social media, resale became easier. It felt normal, trendy, and even extremely monetizable. And the numbers reflect all of this. The global secondhand clothing market is now worth $393 billion, representing roughly 10% of total apparel spend.
In a way, I have to admit that apps like Vinted were life-changing to me because for thrifting you need time, especially if you have like some specific size, not the most common size or figure or something. So to find something your size, in good shape, and what you at least roughly need or like to wear, it was always possible, and I liked this sport, but it took hours and hours. And it was a great change when suddenly you have all this online. You can filter your size, you can filter brands, you can filter colors, everything, and you have precise list of things available. The convenience is there, I have to admit.
10%. That is not niche anymore. That is a significant chunk of how people shop for clothes. So I think it's safe to say thrifting is in. But I want to be crystal clear about something. This goes well beyond apparel. We're seeing the same phenomenon in collector markets with things like used video games and even dishware. With video games, we're seeing a massive spike in demand for retro games specifically. There are hundreds of older games resold on places like eBay for double or triple their retail price every day. For example, Chrono Trigger, which came out all the way back in 1995, now sells loose for around $270. The original Silent Hill, which came out in 1999, sits at $150. And Pokemon Emerald, released in 2005, goes for about $250. These games are priced and sold like collectibles because that's exactly what they've become. And what makes this even more fascinating is that many of these games can still be played through emulation, re-release, or ports, so you would think demand for the originals would go lower, but no. A lot of the people buying these games aren't buying them to play, they are buying them to collect. That is a huge shift in logic. You can experience
or to play once all those streaming platforms, gaming platforms are down. But hopefully electricity is still there. I hope for this scenario.
Chrono Trigger in other ways, legally or otherwise, but that does not replace the cultural status of owning the original cartridge. And then there is Pyrex, which is not a video game, but a line of glass cookware and kitchenware. And
okay,
yes, people are absolutely collecting it. I know that might sound insane for some of you, but stay with me. Vintage Pyrex is massive right now. The colorful patterned bowls and dishes your grandmother almost certainly owned have developed an entire collector economy around them. Specific patterns have names, rarity tiers, and dedicated online communities tracking prices and hunting for finds. A rare butterprint variation can sell for thousands of dollars, and individual pink gooseberry bowls, which are regular mixing bowls made between 1957 and 1966, can sell for hundreds per piece. Per piece! hundreds for a bowl that someone used to make potato salad in. And what makes the Pyrex phenomenon especially fascinating is that unlike video games, this was never about entertainment. No one was sitting around playing with Pyrex, at least I hope not. These were ordinary household objects. They were never meant to be rare, sacred, or displayed like museum pieces. They were meant to sit in a cabinet, get used constantly.
Nothing was ever, apart from maybe art, but nothing was designed to end up in a museum, and everything does.
Constantly and survive a church potluck. But once nostalgia, collector culture, and the internet got involved, well, the rest is history. So whether it's a jacket, a video game, or your grandmother's casserole dish, people are hunting for secondhand goods at a scale we've generally never seen before. And that kind of demand creates something else entirely, an opportunity. And when there's an opportunity, someone is going to take advantage of it, aka resellers. But first, let's talk about something a little less morally cursed: coffee. Today's video is, and I think it's because I finally figured out that making it yourself is not intimidating at all. Thank you so much, Trade, for sponsoring this video. Okay, now back to it. Now, reselling is one of those words that means completely different things depending on who's doing it. So I think it's important we establish something immediately. Not all resellers are created equally. When a family hosts a garage sale, they are technically resellers. There's nothing inherently wrong with that. In fact, I think that's cool. I think that's thrifty. With everything so expensive nowadays, if you want to sell something on Facebook Marketplace or out of the back of your car, go ahead, get your bag. I get it. And beyond that, there are forms of reselling that are generally useful and important. The person who finds beat up old furniture, takes it home, strips it, refinishes it, and sells it to someone who loves it is doing something
This finish is horrible. It is scary. But some people do it in a phenomenal way. And I can proudly say that my mom does this very, very well as a hobby, restoring vintage furniture.
They have a skill, they put in actual labor, and they kept something out of a landfill. That is a win by basically every metric. The same goes for clothes. There was a single father I saw on CBNC who started a reselling business in 2008 after losing his job, digging through flea markets and thrift racks and listing clothes on eBay to support his family. If he is sourcing ethically and keeping garments out of landfills, that seems like a win. And even though antiquing is sometimes viewed as taboo, there's no denying it makes interesting television. I know, more extreme example, but shows like American Pickers and Pawn Stars are extremely popular. People like seeing weird objects and learning about history through collectibles and artifacts. I love to walk through antique shops and never buy anything. It's like a mini museum and the admission is just...
My recommendation, always go to technology museums. I'm not a geek and I love technology museums. In Germany, generally in Europe, many countries, they're historically speaking such amazing things, like first cars from 1800s that had a hook for a horse, because if your car broke down, it was so rare to see another car that you just attached it to a horse, and like billion details like this. Really, I highly recommend technology museums. And antique stores like this too.
An awkward conversation with somebody. So clearly a secondary market can be useful, ethical, and even necessary. But like any market, once enough money flows in, the worst people tend to show up. And that's exactly what happened here. I feel like every other day there's some viral video of someone getting into a fight, pulling some sketchy move, or doing something generally embarrassing to score a product they can flip for double or triple the price. Whether it's Pokemon cards, Labubus, or whatever the next thing is, we have collectively lost the plot on what we were supposed to be ashamed of, and this continues into the world of thrifting. A perfect example of this is the trend of hybrid influencers slash resellers approaching homeless people and elderly people on the street or in stores and offering them to buy the jacket or coat off their back, then flipping it online for a few $100s. Some of them have the audacity to call it cold calling, like it's a sales technique, like they're running a business. This shouldn't be a hot take, but I've never liked the trend of filming people without their consent for content, even before thrifting got dragged into it. But this especially feels gross for numerous reasons. Firstly, a lot of these resellers are filming people who are either older, homeless, or in a vulnerable situation, turning them into a...
This is one of many things I love Germany for. It's illegal. It's illegal to just secretly record someone or record someone that says they don't want to be recorded. And the punishment, the penalty is corresponding how broadly you distributed the video, if you made money or not, but generally it's like a punishable offense. Or this is one of those US horrors for me. I can't comprehend living in a society where any moment, any day when I'm outside my home, anyone can take a picture of me, video of me, whatever they want. Like, it's just feels like horror, even the idea.
Prop. And then secondly, most of these people have no idea they're being recorded. This TikToker reseller in particular shows himself with his Meta Ray-Ban glasses in a bathroom and then proceeds to go, no joke, person to person in a bar, filming, asking to buy their vintage clothes. What? If you approach somebody and put a camera on their face, offer them quick cash, and know full well you're gonna flip that item online for 3 to sometimes 10 times more, that is not savvy reselling. That is just straight up predatory behavior. And the thing is, a lot of this wouldn't be happening if it wasn't for the internet/social media, which is starting to become an underlying theme here, but it's true and worth emphasizing. These videos get millions of views. Millions of people see this and think, hey, how hard is it to acquire this stuff and resell it myself? Well, it turns out pretty easy. There are apps now specifically designed for thrift store arbitrage. You can walk through a secondhand store with your phone out, running real-time market analysis on donated goods, and the person next to you digging through the same rack has absolutely no idea. Now, this technology alone isn't necessarily a bad thing. As a regular consumer, I like the idea of price checking things to make sure I'm not getting ripped off. But these specific tools undeniably made reselling easier overnight. If even just a few resellers live in your area, this is likely a large reason why everything is getting picked over. That guy in 2008 was going off the knowledge he had. Now anyone with an iPhone can do the same thing. On top of that, there are forums, communities, and guides built on reselling. I found one from a company that sells software tools to Amazon resellers, and one of their tips to maximizing your thrift store sourcing is, no joke, to be kind to employees. Not because it's the right thing to do, but because, and I'm quoting this directly, respectful shoppers are often shown new arrivals before they hit the floor. It even tells readers to thank staff members by name and reshelve items neatly, not as a matter of basic decency, but as a way to get access to fresh donations before the public does. Maybe it's just me, but I feel like this teeters borderline sociopathic behavior. The guide is not saying be nice because these are human beings, it's saying be nice because it might get you first dibs on good stuff. And that is a pretty bleak way to think about other people. And look, no single reseller broke thrifting, but enough of them armed with the right apps, the right guides, and zero shame about it absolutely changed what the experience feels like for everyone else. And they are not even the biggest player in this story. Goodwill, for many, is what people think of when they think of thrifting. Goodwill is the largest secondhand clothing retailer in the world, and with over 1,400 thrift stores and donation centers across the United States and Canada, for years,
I didn't know it's the name of a company. I thought it's a name like a type of a store. Goodwill store, where you, with some donation for charity, you buy second-hand stuff. I didn't know it's like a specific company.
Goodwill was seen as a thrifter's paradise. Rows of clothes, wacky mugs, and obscure DVDs. Everything a frugal person could dream of. And their story is really interesting. In 1902, a minister named Edgar J. Helms was running a struggling mission in one of the poorest neighborhoods in South Boston, watching immigrants arrive in a new country with no jobs, no money, and no real safety net. So he decided to do something about it. He went door to door in Boston's wealthiest neighborhoods, asking for donated clothes and household goods, and then hired the people from his community, many of whom were unemployable at the time, to repair and sell them. The model exploded, and over 120 years
I didn't know this specific story, and this is actually something that I constantly advocate for. This is what states should invest in: training and then workplaces for repairing workers and upcycling workers. That everything should become much more repairable, and this should be type of a really good job. Repairing shoes, repairing clothes, and things like that.
Later, Goodwill turned into Goodwill Industries, a network of 150 autonomous organizations that aim to provide jobs and rehabilitation to less fortunate people and those with disabilities, which I think we can all agree is generally a cool idea. If a business can help people while offering super affordable products, in theory, that sounds like a slam dunk. Or it should be. Recently, Goodwill has developed a reputation that doesn't quite match the name on the building. Dare I say, Goodwill has turned into Badwill. In my Pokemon card video, I called Goodwill a charity and received a ton of comments saying I was wrong, that it's not a charity. So let's address that. Goodwill identifies itself as a 501c3.
I'm good, I'm not alone. I'm happy I'm not alone, because that's what I said. I thought it's a type of a store where part of a donation, part of payment is a donation for charity. Apparently not, but at least I was not the only one who thought so.
Nonprofit. And the IRS defines 501c3 entities as tax-exempt charitable organizations. So in plain tax terms, yes, Goodwill is a charity, but those commenters aren't necessarily wrong. Goodwill doesn't feel like a charity because it doesn't have to. Here's the thing about that nonprofit tax status. The IRS doesn't require a nonprofit to feel generous. It only requires that the organization be structured for exempt purposes and not serve private interests in ways it's not supposed to. A nonprofit can be revenue maxing and completely cold about it, and Goodwill definitely does that. Goodwill has been repeatedly criticized for pricing donated items at or even above their original retail value. Reminder, these are used items. They were donated. Goodwill acquired them for free, and yet somehow, in some cases, they're sitting on a shelf with a price tag higher than what the item cost brand new at Target, Walmart, or wherever it came from in the first place. This is definitely valid criticism, since it's not like the quality on the sales floor has risen to match those prices. If anything, it's gotten way worse. And there are a few reasons for that. The first is that Goodwill has built out a serious online sales machine on shopgoodwill.com. If you've never been on the website, it's truly insane. The website functions as a thrifting auction house where donated items can be listed nationwide. And when Goodwill noticed how popular it became, they changed their entire business model. Valuable items donated are no longer put out in stores. Instead, they are pulled, sorted, photographed, and routed on the national online marketplace. There's actually leaked images of what sorters have to send to e-commerce, and it's nuts. Designer clothes, Pokemon cards, Jordans, you name it. The online shift fundamentally changed what items show up in your store. If you donate some nice shoes hoping they'd go to a local teen or someone within your community, chances are they were put online for Goodwill to auction to who knows who. So between Goodwill skimming off the most auction-worthy items and resellers hunting down the rest, what gets left on the floor is often the stuff nobody else wanted. But let's be real for a second. Inventory and pricing is one thing. Remember, Goodwill is supposed to be a charity, so if they're selling their products, whether online or to resellers, at least it's still going towards the right things, right? For years, some Goodwill stores were paying select workers with disabilities less than minimum wage. Not off a few cents, not off a few dollars, some disabled workers were being paid as little as 22 cents an hour. This became a
absolutely insane. 22 cents per hour. In Germany, what shocked me, there's also some insane organization similar to this that employs people with disabilities, not in conditions, from what I know, decent conditions, but for under the official minimum wage, and it's kind of somehow made legal. One of those things that I wouldn't guess, but I learned this not long ago, and definitely not enough people are aware that even in this socially developed or progressive, in theory, country, things like this are happening. But 22 cents per hour are, I don't know if I ever saw a lower minimum wage anywhere.
Off a few dollars, some disabled workers were being paid as little as 22 cents an hour. This became a national controversy in 2013 when it was discovered Goodwill was using a loophole in Section 14C of the Fair Labor Standards Act, which allows employers to apply for a certificate that allows them to pay some workers with disabilities below federal minimum wage. Because of the backlash, most locations have moved away from it, but the fact it was happening at scale at an organization whose entire public identity was built around lifting people up is generally hard to reconcile. And the employee controversies don't stop there. In the years that followed, Goodwill faced more backlash over the treatment of disabled workers, including a 2019 incident in Illinois where disabled employees were told they were being let go over minimum wage increases, and a workplace safety case in California that ended in a worker's death and OSHA fines. And then there's the money. Goodwill is structured in a way that makes it generally complicated to investigate. Each individual Goodwill location operates as its own entity with its own federal tax ID, which means there are hundreds of separate Form 990s filed every year across the network. In 2024, Goodwill Industries International, the national organization, paid nearly $1.47 million to a marketing agency called Blue Chip for advertising services. This was for a national campaign specifically designed to reframe donations in people's minds as career development funding running on Meta, TikTok, and cable television. And that is just at the national level. Over the past several years, individual Goodwill organizations have been spending serious money on advertising and PR as well. In 2022, Goodwill Industries of Houston spent $750,000 on advertising. In 2023, the Washington, D.C. organization spent $500,000 in advertising and separately reported $1.2 million in auction-related fees, which tells you exactly how seriously they take Shop Goodwill as a business. That same year, Goodwill of Southern California spent $685,000 on advertising and more than $1.1 million on communications. Combined, Goodwill is spending millions on advertising and public-facing messaging. That is a lot of money for an organization people still tend to picture as a humble local thrift store. Now, to be clear, nonprofits are allowed to market themselves. That is not illegal and not necessarily wrong. The thing is, given Goodwill's terrible PR problems, it's hard not to see this spending as an effort to reshape public opinion and try to rehabilitate the brand. And honestly, you can see that effort when you look at how Goodwill presents itself online. Now, I have a background in SEO, so maybe I'm more sensitive to this stuff, but once you start noticing it, it's hard to unsee. Search anything even remotely critical about Goodwill on Google, and you run into a wall of myth-busting content and full-blown puff pieces. The truth about Goodwill. 7 myths about Goodwill and why they're not true. Debunking common Goodwill myths. Almost every Goodwill has their own myth-busting article. This one has little memes next to each myth to tell you which one's true and which one isn't. Again, they're not doing anything illegal, but I think it says a lot that so many people have these questions and mixed realities of what Goodwill has become. The average person no longer experiences Goodwill as a charity, or honestly, even as a real thrift store. And the weird part is, Goodwill is not alone in this. That same blurry, confusing energy is all over the secondhand world. Take Savers, which is a for-profit thrift chain that has faced serious public backlash over the way it markets itself. Savers was actually sued for false advertising, and the case made it all the way up to the Supreme Court. The ruling came down in Savers' favor, with the court determining that their marketing language was protected under free speech. So once more, they're not doing anything illegal, but that does not change the fact that people were and are generally confused by this type of business framing. And antique stores are dealing with their own version of that too. Here's something most people don't know. The word antique actually has a legal definition. According to US custom regulations, an item must be at least 100 years old to legally qualify as an antique, a standard that is supported by major auction houses and is recognized internationally. And yet, you walk into almost any antique mall in America and you'll find 1990s Furbies, early 2000 video games, and
Furby. I had a Furby. I have to say I loved my Furby.
80s action figures under the same roof as actual antique furniture. Now, this is not a huge problem on its own, but it becomes problematic when antique stores price items at antique premiums, even though the items are new or nearly new. And again, that does not necessarily mean anyone is committing fraud. It just means the labels have gotten blurry, the categories have gotten messy, and more people are walking into these spaces expecting one thing and getting something else entirely. But as they say, talk is cheap. If we want to actually see what the secondhand market looks like right now, I need to get out there. And there's one place specifically I have in mind: Amish country, aka Holmes County, Ohio. Now, if you've heard of Amish country, you're probably thinking of Lancaster County, Pennsylvania, which is the oldest Amish settlement in the United States. Holmes County is also very old, about the same size but packed with thrift stores, antique malls, and a boatload of secondhand shops, which makes it the perfect place to see what thrifting actually looks like on the ground right now. I thought I was going to find old stuff, reasonably priced, a little dusty, maybe a weird lamp or two, the kind of experience people describe when they talk about thrifting the way it used to be. And in some ways, I found exactly that. I found a Wayne Gretzky life-size cardboard cutout. I found a copy of Duck Dynasty on DVD. I found a tin of McCormick pepper. I found some suspicious handcuffs, which made me uncomfortable. And of course, I found boatloads of Beanie Babies, a staple of every secondhand store in America. But there was also a few things I kept running into that told a different story. The first was Pyrex. There was Pyrex everywhere, towers of it. At a certain point, it stopped feeling like people were selling old bowls and started feeling like I had stumbled upon some sort of dishware commodities market. The prices matched what I'd been seeing online, absurd. And get this, one shop had a silent auction running specifically for Pyrex. A silent auction for casserole dishes. There was also a good amount of uranium glass, which is vintage glassware made with actual uranium oxide that glows green under a backlight. Almost every store seemed to have at least one glowing little shrine of radioactive dishware. One of the weirdest things I saw was in an antique shop where they had these thrift loot boxes. These were stapled shut mystery bags where you had no idea what was inside and you just had to buy them blind.
Gambling
mechanics.
thrift
Can we
store?
ever escape them? I also visited plenty of Goodwills nearby too. I was shocked with how different the stores are today than when I remember, like a lot different. For example, Goodwill sells regular items that you might find at a regular retailer now, which isn't a problem or necessarily against the rules, but I think it is a bit strange. It's trying to fill the role of something like a Big Lots, but the prices don't really reflect that. But then easily the best example I found of what thrifting has turned into was when I stumbled upon antique stores selling brand new sealed Pokemon card products. Yep, that's right, brand new Pokemon card products. Not old ones, not the ones from the 90s or even 2000s, the same stuff people are getting in fights over at Target. Right next to genuine American memorabilia priced at 2 to 3 times retail. In an antique mall, under glass, like they were rare artifacts. And that's when it clicked for me. That's when I finally realized why everything feels so broken. We've entered trap, or what I'm calling the thrift retail antique paradox, a 3-part contradiction. Years ago, retail was where you bought new stuff at a marked up but logical price. Thrifting was where you bought used stuff cheaply because it was used and that was the whole deal. Someone already wore these jeans, someone already used this blender, and then antiquing was when you paid a premium for things that were generally old, rare, or historically interesting. You're not just buying a toy, you're buying an antique toy. You're not just buying a game, you're buying a piece of history. 3 lanes, 3 distinct sets of rules. But the problem is that these 3 lanes have essentially collapsed. Thrift stores no longer prioritize affordability. They check the market rate, price accordingly, and pull antique store logic from inventory they got for free. That's Goodwill, a place who would rather maximize profitability over accessibility, which makes it no different than a regular retailer. But the funny part is, a regular retailer sells new items. Goodwill just sells picked over used junk. And then on the flip side, antique stores have figured out that if you put something in a glass case next to the things that are generally old and rare, people will treat them like antiques and pay antique prices, even though they're not antiques. Which is why I could walk into an antique mall in Holmes County, Ohio and find brand new Pokemon card products at 2.5 times retail. Thrift stores no longer guarantee thrift store pricing, antique stores no longer guarantee actual antiques, and retail no longer guarantees that the person clearing the shelf is buying something to use themselves. That is the paradox. That is the trap. Every category has invaded every other category, and the only people who didn't get a say in any of it are us, the consumers. And when we zoom out even further, I think all of this says more about social economics than most people realize. Think about what type of people are actually thrifting right now. Nearly everybody. People struggling so hard they have to, families in the middle who are watching their budgets tighten and are trying to maintain their status quo, and individuals who don't necessarily need to, but are chasing the thrill. Every social class is thrifting, possibly for the first time in history, which is exactly why the thrift retail antique paradox exists. Sellers, whether they're individuals or entities like Goodwill, can get away with higher prices because even though most people won't pay, someone will. Whether it's out of necessity or just because someone has the money money to blow. And when that happens, it reinforces the higher price point for everyone who said it. I still think thrifting is worth doing. I still think a secondhand market is better than no secondhand market. And yes, you can still find the occasional deal. But I also think we're allowed to be honest about what changed, who benefited, and who got priced out almost every single time. The everyday consumer. The things that used to signal struggle now signal taste. And those are two very different people shopping in the same aisle. Thanks so much for watching. I hope you learned something today. Special thanks to Trade Coffee for sponsoring the video, and an extra.
Is it social, economical? I think it's like economical issue. Strictly saying, because it is a type of asset, weird type of asset. Having those sources and routes for obtaining interesting second-hand products. I remember my mom's friend had a second-hand store in Warsaw, and generally speaking, a lot depended on if the stuff you're getting, every new arrival, is it on average Primark, Tesco, cheapest stuff, or do you have some Levi's and some other, I don't know, better American brands, and some really, really cool hidden gems. So having this type of access and some recognizable, in some countries, for example, second-hand brand, is a type of asset. And all assets are being now bought by super rich people and by private equity. And once all small brands are being sold and bought immediately, and you're looking for something more, buying a thrift stores and hiking up prices is also something happening, or getting into this business as like to actually compete, to dominate other actors. You know, you can, and it used to be in many economies a normal thing that you went into business not to dominate and destroy every other company in your industry, but to just find your part of a market and your happy clients and operate there. But capitalism can't exist, so it was just a brief moment and illusion. Pretty nice video. I hoped for a little bit something else, but it was good, and I like this guy. Pretty nice guy. So, the surprise rise of Belgium's radical left? I feel tempted to watch this as the last thing. In my job as a tour guide, I have many Belgians. In my life, I've done lots of socialist propaganda to many people from Belgium. Maybe I have my tiny, maybe I have 3 members signed up after my encouragement to organize. General knowledge. I don't know this channel. Okay, it's a clickbait precisely for me, so let's see if it's good. If it's any good.
Is Belgium about to become the EU's first Marxist-ruled country? I was looking at this poll chart for Belgium from Political the other day, and I noticed something odd. PTB, the Workers' Party of Belgium, has doubled their results since the last election, jumping from 12%, which granted them a mere 6th place in the election, to 24, which ties them for first place within the margin of error. That's within Brussels, the capital of the country. In Antwerp, they are already at 20% too. In Wallonia, they've risen to 18, and even in Flanders, they just passed the double-digit mark. Now, granted, Belgium is a very fractured country politically,